In court, my wife, the CEO, called me a gold digger. Her lawyer, also her new boyfriend, nodded in agreement. Then the judge said, "So an annual income of $550 is still considered gold digging, huh?" "What? How much?" she gasped. Then her mouth began to stutter. The rain started during dessert. I remember because Vanessa had just set down her wine glass, white, always white. Sancerre, if the restaurant had it, and said something about the weather being pathetically theatrical. She had this way of making even meteorology sound like a personal insult. The kind of tone that made waiters hesitate before approaching our table. "It's just rain," I said, cutting into the chocolate torte I'd ordered. She hadn't touched hers. She never did. Vanessa Marcus didn't do chocolate or carbs after 6, or anything that might suggest she was human enough to have cravings. "It's noise," she corrected, her eyes on her phone screen. The glow illuminated her face in that particular way that made her look carved from marble. Beautiful. Cold. "Expensive. And I have a 7 a.m. with Singapore. I need to sleep." 7 a.m. Singapore. Board meeting. Quarterly projections. The language of her world. Spoken in a dialect I'd learned to decode over 8 years of marriage. What she actually meant was, "This dinner is over. You're dismissed." I took another bite of torte. Let the silence stretch. This was our dance. Now her leading, me following. Both of us pretending we couldn't hear the music dying. "David." My name in her mouth sounded like a sigh. "Are you listening?" "Always," I said. And I was. I'd been listening for 3 years, ever since she made CEO, listening to the late-night calls, the weekend emergencies, the way she said "we" when talking about the office, but "I" when talking about us. Listening to the sound of our marriage ending in slow motion, one corporate merger at a time. She stood, signaling for the check with that imperial wave of hers. The waiter materialized instantly. They always did for her. Vanessa Marcus, 39 years old, Chief Executive Officer of Marcus & Holt Technologies, youngest woman to lead a Fortune 500 company, featured in Forbes, Fortune, and that one New York Times profile that called her the Ice Queen of Silicon Valley and somehow made it sound like a compliment. And me? David Chen, 41, her husband, the man who held her purse at galas, the one photographers cropped out of photos, the gold digger. Oh, she hadn't said it yet. Not out loud, not where anyone could hear. But I'd seen it in her eyes. During our last argument about the vacation house. Heard it in the pause before she introduced me to her new CFO. Felt it in the way her mother, that brittle, champagne-voiced woman who'd never worked a day in her life, looked at me across the table at Christmas. What does he even do? The ride home was quiet, except for the rain and the rhythm of her fingers on her phone screen. Our driver, Marcus, yes, she'd hired someone who shared her last name. Found it amusing, navigated the wet streets of Manhattan with the practiced ease of someone who'd driven this route 1,000 times. Park Avenue to our building on 5th. Doorman. Elevator. 32nd floor. The penthouse that appeared in Architectural Digest under the headline, Power Living. Her penthouse. Her building. Her city. "I was just visiting. I'm going to the study," Vanessa announced as we entered, not bothering to remove her heels. They clicked across the Italian marble like a countdown. "Don't wait up." I didn't. Instead, I poured myself a scotch, the Macallan 25 her father gave us as a wedding present. Still 3/4 full, because Vanessa didn't drink brown liquor, and I rarely drank alone, and stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The rain blurred the lights into impressionist paintings. Monet, maybe, or that Japanese artist, whose name I could never remember. If you've ever stood in a home worth $8 million and felt homeless, you know the particular species of loneliness I'm talking about. It's not the kind that makes you sad. It's the kind that makes you numb. The kind where you forget what your own voice sounds like because you've been quiet so long. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister. Mom's asking about Thanksgiving. You coming solo or bringing the Ice Queen? I smiled despite myself. Melissa had never liked Vanessa, not from the beginning. Said she had shark eyes. Said anyone who scheduled sex like a board meeting wasn't someone you could trust. Said a lot of things I'd defended against for 8 years because I was in love, goddammit, and love was supposed to be enough. Supposed to be. I typed back, TBD. How's the practice? The dots appeared immediately. Melissa, night owl, probably elbow deep in case files. She was a public defender in Brooklyn, made $48,000 a year, worked 80-hour weeks, and somehow seemed happier than anyone I knew. Brutal, beautiful, broke, the usual. You okay? Was I? I looked around the penthouse. The artwork Vanessa had chosen, the furniture I'd never sat on, the grand piano no one played, the life we'd built that felt like a museum exhibit. American marriage, circa 2025, do not touch. Yeah, I typed. All good. Liar. I finished my scotch and went to bed. Our bed, king-sized California, sheets with a thread count that sounded like a zip code. Vanessa came in around 2 a.m. I pretended to be asleep. She pretended to believe me. This was the choreography of our intimacy now. Elaborate pretending, performed in the dark. The next morning, I woke up to find her side of the bed empty and cold. A note on her pillow, written in her sharp, architectural handwriting. Flew to Singapore. Back Friday. V. No love. No miss you. Just her initial. Like a signature on a termination letter. I lay there for a long moment, staring at the ceiling, at the recessed lighting she'd had installed, at the crown molding that cost more than my first car. Thought about how we used to wake up tangled together, how she used to kiss my shoulder before getting up, how we used to talk about having kids someday, about growing old together, about all the beautiful lies people tell themselves when they're 26 and in love and too stupid to know that love isn't enough. That love is never enough when you're married to ambition. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something instinct, curiosity, the same impulse that makes you look at car crashes made me pick up. David Chen? A woman's voice. Professional. Careful. Speaking. This is Jennifer Walsh from Morrison, Barrett & Associates. I'm an attorney representing your wife, Vanessa Marcus, in a matter of dissolution of marriage. I'm calling to inform you that we'll be filing divorce papers on her behalf this afternoon. You should expect to be served within the next 48 hours. The ceiling seemed to tilt, or maybe I was the one tilting. Hard to tell. What? Divorce papers, Mr. Chen. Your wife is filing for divorce. I wanted to extend you the courtesy of a heads up before the process server arrives. We believe in professional courtesy, even in difficult situations. Professional courtesy. Like I was a client, not a husband. Like our marriage was a contract being terminated. Does she? I stopped, swallowed. Did she want to tell me herself? A pause, long enough to be uncomfortable. Mrs. Marcus is currently en route to Singapore for business. She felt it would be more efficient to have legal counsel handle the initial communication. More efficient? I see, I said, though I couldn't. The words weren't making sense. Thank you for the call. You want to retain counsel, Mr. Chen. Given the complexity of the estate and the, disparity in your financial positions, I'd recommend someone experienced in high-asset divorces. Do you have representation? Not yet. Well, you'll want to move quickly. We're proposing an expedited timeline. Mrs. Marcus would like this resolved as efficiently as possible. Efficiently. That word again. Our marriage ending like a business deal. Quarterly targets, action items, KPIs for heartbreak. Of course she would, I said, and hung up. I sat there for what might have been an hour, might have been 10 minutes. Time felt liquid, unreliable. The rain had stopped. The sun was coming out. Central Park below looked green and alive, and completely indifferent to the fact that my life was ending. Finally, I got up, showered, dressed, made coffee. I didn't drink. Stood in the kitchen, her kitchen, with the imported Italian espresso machine and the refrigerator that cost more than a semester of college, and tried to remember the last time she'd kissed me like she meant it. Couldn't. My phone buzzed again. This time, my friend Marcus, not the driver. My college roommate, Marcus Webb, who'd somehow become a moderately successful divorce attorney despite being the kind of guy who cried during Pixar movies. Dude, just got a call from Jennifer Walsh. She's representing Vanessa? What the hell is happening? I stared at the text. Felt something crack open in my chest. Something that might have been laughter or might have been screaming. She's divorcing me, I typed back, via lawyer, while she's in Singapore. 3 dots. Then, Jesus Christ, I'm coming over. Don't, I'm fine. Bullshit. I'm coming over. He showed up 40 minutes later, rumpled and concerned, carrying bagels and the kind of sympathy that makes you want to break things. We sat in the living room, the one with the view, the art, the furniture that cost more than his car, and he looked around with the expression of someone touring a crime scene. This place always creeps me out, he said. It's like a hotel. Where's your stuff? What stuff? Your stuff, David. Books, photos, that weird sculpture you made in college. Where's the you in all this? I looked around. He was right. There was nothing here that was mine. Even the clothes in my closet were clothes Vanessa had approved. The watch on my wrist, a gift from her. The shoes, the haircut. The life. She's calling you a gold digger, Marcus said quietly. Jennifer mentioned it on the call. Said Vanessa's alleging you married her for her money, that you've been living off her for years. I laughed. Actually laughed. I met her when she was an associate, making $80,000 a year. I was the one with the trust fund back then, the one paying for vacations. I remember that ski trip to Aspen. You covered everyone because you'd just cashed out some inheritance. Right. And when she was building the company, working 100-hour weeks, who do you think paid the rent? Bought the groceries? Kept the lights on? You did. With my money. From my job. And my investments. I felt it rising now. The anger. Clean. Sharp. Useful. And you know what's funny? I stopped working at her request. She said she was making enough for both of us. Said she wanted me to focus on the home, managing our life, being available. Marcus was taking notes now. Lawyer mode activated. Do you have documentation of this? Emails? Texts? Probably. Probably isn't good enough. We need a paper trail. Because if she's claiming you're a gold digger, she's going for a prenup enforcement. You signed one, right? I had. 8 years ago. We both did. It seemed romantic at the time, proof that we loved each other, for reasons beyond money. The prenup stated that in the event of divorce, each party retained their separate property and assets acquired before marriage. Anything earned during the marriage would be split equitably. Seemed fair then. Seemed like a noose now. David, Marcus leaned forward. What do you do for money? Current income? I consult. Investment advisory. Private clients. How much? I told him. He blinked. Say that again. 550,000 annually, give or take, depending on bonuses and market performance. You make $550,000 a year and you let her call you a gold digger? I let her call me a lot of things, I said quietly. I thought that's what love was. Accommodation, flexibility, becoming smaller so she could be bigger. Marcus looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not the sympathetic smile. The other one. The shark smile. The one that made me remember why he'd never lost a case involving asset division. "David," he said, "how would you like to educate your wife about exactly who she married?" And that's when I realized the rain had stopped, but the storm was just beginning. Marcus left 3 hours later with a briefcase full of documents and a promise to make Jennifer Walsh regret her professional courtesy. I sat alone in the penthouse, surrounded by the evidence of my own erasure. Funny thing about being married to someone who documents everything, they teach you to do the same. Vanessa kept files, spreadsheets, digital records of every transaction, every meeting, every moment that could be quantified and stored. She used to joke that if it wasn't documented, it didn't happen. Used to say that memory was unreliable, but data was forever. She was right about that. I opened my laptop, the one she'd given me for my birthday 3 years ago. Top of the line, more computing power than I'd ever need, and started digging through my own archives. Email accounts, cloud storage, banking records, the digital breadcrumbs of a life lived in someone else's shadow. The first thing I found was an email from 2019. Subject line, your career. David, I've been thinking about our conversation last night. You're right, it doesn't make sense for both of us to be working these insane hours. One of us should be available, should be the one managing our life together. And honestly, with my trajectory at M&H, it makes financial sense for that person to be you. You've always been better at the life stuff anyway, the details, the planning. I need someone I can trust to handle things while I'm building this company. Someone who gets it, someone who gets me. Think about it. We could travel more. You could consult part-time, keep your hand in the game, but no more 80-hour weeks for both of us. Let me be the one climbing. You be the one making sure we don't forget why we're climbing in the first place. Love you. Mean it. V. Ever. I read it twice, 3 times, trying to reconcile the woman who wrote those words with the woman who'd just filed for divorce while flying business class to Singapore. Love you. Mean it. Did she? Had she ever? Or was I just another acquisition? Something that looked good on paper until the market shifted. I forwarded the email to Marcus, added it to a folder I labeled Evidence. The word felt clinical, cold, perfect. Next, I pulled up my banking records. Vanessa had always handled our joint finances, her CFO brain, her need for control, her belief that she was better at managing assets. But I'd kept my own accounts. Had to, for my consulting work. My clients paid me directly. Always had. The numbers told a story she'd apparently forgotten. 2017, $287,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $43,000. 2018, $312,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $67,000. 2019, $398,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $91,000. 2020, $445,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $103,000. Pandemic year. Interesting how crisis made people want financial advice. 2021, $487,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $118,000. 2022, $521,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $124,000. 2023, $544,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $157,000. 2024, $553,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $183,000. And 2025, year to date, $412,000 in consulting fees. Investment returns, $147,000. I'd been averaging over $500,000 annually for the past 5 years. More than most people made in a lifetime. Less than Vanessa made in a quarter, sure, but enough to support myself. Enough to have walked away from this marriage with my dignity intact. Except, I'd never wanted to walk away. That was the thing she'd never understood. I didn't marry her for her money. I married her because she made me feel alive. Because when I met her at that tech conference in Austin, both of us trapped at the same excruciating keynote about disruption in the digital age, she'd leaned over and whispered, "If he says paradigm shift one more time, I'm going to paradigm shift myself off this balcony." I'd laughed. She'd smiled. We'd left the conference early and spent 4 hours at a dive bar talking about everything except work. She told me about growing up with parents who believed success was the only virtue worth having. I told her about growing up with parents who believed happiness was the only virtue worth having. She said her mother never hugged her. I said my mother never stopped hugging me. "We're opposites," she'd said, her hand finding mine across the sticky bar table. "Complementary," I'd corrected. "Opposites repel. We complete each other." She'd kissed me then. Tasted like whiskey and possibility. That was 12 years ago. A lifetime. A different universe. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Jennifer Walsh. I wanted to follow up on our conversation this morning. My office can recommend several qualified attorneys if you need assistance finding representation." I stared at the message. The carefully constructed politeness of it. The subtle condescension. The implication that I was too helpless, too financially dependent, too much of a gold digger to have my own resources. I typed back, "Thank you, but I've retained Marcus Webb of Webb and Associates. All further communication should go through him." 3 dots. Then, Marcus Webb. Interesting choice. Tell him I said hello. They knew each other. Of course they did. The divorce attorney community in Manhattan was probably smaller than my college graduating class. They probably had drinks together, compared war stories, laughed about desperate spouses and contested prenups. Well, let them laugh. I went back to my files. Found the folder labeled House, Hamptons. We'd bought it together in 2021. Vanessa put down 70% of the purchase price. I put down 30. The deed was in both our names. She'd insisted on that. Said it was our home. That percentages didn't matter in a marriage. Percentages didn't matter. I wondered if she'd remember that when her lawyer tried to claim sole ownership. I also found the receipts. God, the receipts. I'd kept everything because Vanessa taught me to keep everything. Every dinner I'd paid for when her credit card was maxed during the company's early days. Every vacation I'd funded when she was pouring every cent into M&H Technologies. Every time I'd covered rent, utilities, groceries, life while she built her empire. There was a particular receipt from 2018. Morton's Steakhouse, $847. Her birthday dinner. I'd taken her there because she'd just lost a major investor deal and was convinced the company would fold. I'd held her while she cried in the restaurant bathroom, then taken her home and held her some more while she talked about giving up, going back to corporate life, admitting defeat. "You're going to make it," I'd told her. "You're brilliant and ruthless, and you don't know how to quit. This is just a setback." "You really believe that?" "I know that." She'd kissed me, made love to me with a desperation that felt like drowning and salvation all at once. Whispered against my skin, "I don't deserve you." I should have listened to her then. The sky outside was turning that particular shade of purple that New York does so well. I stood at the window and watched the city light up below me. Millions of lives being lived in millions of apartments, all of them probably happier than mine. My phone rang. "Marcus, tell me you found something good," he said, skipping pleasantries. End quote. "I'm livered pleasantries of projected." End quote. End quote. End quote. I found everything. Emails, bank records, receipts, 8 years of documentation. Beautiful. How fast can you get it to me? Tonight? Perfect. I'm drafting our response to her filing. Jennifer's going for a prenup enforcement with a gold digger narrative. She's claiming you contributed nothing to the marriage financially, that you've been living off Vanessa's success, and that you should get nothing beyond what you brought in, which was more than she brought in when we got married. Exactly, and that's what we're going to show them. But David, I need you to be prepared for how ugly this might get. Jennifer Walsh doesn't lose. She's gonna come at you with everything. She'll dig into your past, your family, your business dealings. She'll try to make you look incompetent, parasitic, manipulative. Let her try. That's the spirit. Also, she's going to depose you. Probably within the next 2 weeks. You'll need to be ready to sit in a room with her and answer questions under oath for potentially 8 hours. The thought made my stomach clench. Will Vanessa be there? Probably not for your deposition, but you'll have to be at hers. But the idea of sitting across from my wife, my almost ex-wife, and listening to her testify about how little I'd contributed to our life together felt like a special kind of torture, but also like something I needed. Closure, maybe, or evidence that I hadn't imagined the whole thing, that the woman I married had actually existed and wasn't just a character I'd invented to make the loneliness bearable. I'll do whatever it takes, I said. Good. Because there's something else you should know. Jennifer mentioned in her filing that Vanessa has recently discovered evidence of financial impropriety on your part. Any idea what that means? None. My finances are clean. Everything's documented. Every client, every transaction, every tax return filed on time. She might be fishing, creating a narrative to justify the divorce and the asset grab. But we'll need to be ready if she actually has something. After we hung up, I spent another 3 hours compiling files, created a master document that outlined every financial contribution I'd made to our marriage, every investment decision that had paid off, every time I'd supported her, financially and otherwise, while she built her empire. The document was 63 pages long. 63 pages of proof that I was not, in fact, a gold digger. That I had brought value to this marriage. That I had been a partner, not a parasite. I sent it to Marcus with a subject line, Discovery. His response came back in under a minute. Holy shit. This is beautiful. This is art. Jennifer Walsh is going to hate us. Good. I typed back. I made myself dinner, something simple. Pasta with olive oil and garlic, the kind of food Vanessa never ate because carbs were the enemy. Poured another glass of the Macallan. Sat at the dining table that seated 12 and felt like I was the only person in the world. The silence was different now. Not numb, not lonely. Something else. Something that felt almost like anticipation. My phone buzzed. A text from Melissa. Mom says you haven't called her back. She's worried. I'm worried. What's going on? I looked at the message for a long time. Thought about how to explain that my marriage was ending. That my wife thought I was a gold digger. That I was about to go to war with the woman I'd once loved more than breathing. Vanessa filed for divorce, I typed. It's complicated. I'll call Mom tomorrow. The response was immediate. What? Calling you now. The phone rang. I answered. Start talking, Melissa said. So I did. Told her everything. The divorce papers, the lawyer, the allegations, the prenup, Marcus, the documents. All of it spilling out in a rush of words that tasted like grief and rage and something that might have been relief. That bitch, Melissa said when I finished. That absolute bitch. Mel, no, don't defend her. She doesn't get your loyalty anymore. She gave that up when she called you a gold digger while literally making millions off a company you helped support during the lean years. I didn't do it for the credit. I know. That's what makes you a good person and her a sociopath. David, listen to me. You're going to take her for everything she's worth. Not because you need the money, clearly you don't, but because she needs to learn that she can't just erase people when they're no longer useful. That's not who I am. Then become who you need to be, just for this, just until it's over. We talked for another hour. She told me about a case she was working on, a kid who'd been accused of stealing from a corner store when he was actually trying to return money he'd found. Said the system was rigged against people who told the truth. Said sometimes you had to fight dirty to get clean justice. Is that what this is? I asked. Justice? What else would you call it? After we hung up, I sat in the dark and thought about that. Justice, revenge, truth. Did it matter what word I used as long as the outcome was the same? I pulled up my email, started writing. Vanessa, I got the call from your lawyer this morning. Professional courtesy, she called it. Very thoughtful of you to have someone else tell your husband of 8 years that you're divorcing him. I'm not going to beg you to reconsider. I'm not going to ask what I did wrong or what I could have done differently. I know you've already made up your mind, and when Vanessa Marcus makes up her mind, the rest of the world just has to adjust. But I want you to know something. I loved you. Past tense, since apparently that's where we're living now. I loved you when you were nobody. When you were scared and broke and convinced you'd never make it. I loved you when you succeeded. When you became someone. When you forgot what it felt like to be scared. And I loved you when you stopped loving me back. I don't know when that happened. Maybe it was gradual. Maybe it was a specific moment, a promotion, a deal, a realization that you'd outgrown the man who used to make you laugh at tech conferences. Either way, it's done. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to go to court and call me a gold digger. Your lawyer is going to paint me as some kind of parasite who lived off your success. And then I'm going to show them exactly who I am and what I contributed. Not because I want your money, but because I want the truth on record. You taught me that, remember? If it's not documented, it didn't happen. Well, I documented everything. See you in court. David. I read it 3 times. Deleted it. Wrote it again. Deleted it again. Some messages are better left unsent. Some truths are better revealed in person, under oath, in front of a judge. Instead, I forwarded everything to Marcus. Every email, every receipt, every piece of evidence that proved I was not what she claimed I was. The rain started again around midnight. I stood at the window and watched it fall, thinking about how water changes everything it touches, how it wears down mountains, how it reveals the shape of things buried beneath the surface. The storm was coming, and this time, I was ready. The process server arrived on a Tuesday. I know it was Tuesday because that was the day our housekeeper, Rosa, came. She'd been cleaning the penthouse for 6 years, knew where every wine glass lived, knew that Vanessa took her coffee black and I took mine with cream. Knew, probably before I did, that our marriage was a beautiful museum exhibit of something that used to be alive. She answered the door while I was in the home office, reviewing a portfolio for a client in Boston. Tech stocks. High risk. The kind of investment that either made you rich or taught you humility. I heard voices. Rosa's careful English. A man's voice, professional, apologetic. Mr. Chen? Rosa appeared in the doorway, her face arranged in that expression of sympathy people wear when they're about to deliver bad news. There's a man here for you. I knew what it was before I saw him. 20-something, cheap suit, carrying a manila envelope like it contained nuclear codes. He had the look of someone who'd done this 1,000 times, who'd watched 1,000 marriages end on doorsteps just like this one. David Chen? He asked, though he already knew. That's me. He handed me the envelope. You've been served. Have a good day, sir. And just like that, it was official. My marriage was a legal proceeding, a case number, a matter for the courts to decide. I stood there holding the envelope while Rosa pretended to dust a table that was already spotless. After a moment, she said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. Mrs. Marcus, she trailed off, searching for words in her second language that I couldn't find in my first. It's okay, Rosa. These things happen. You are a good man," she said firmly. "Good husband. She forget this." I smiled, felt something crack in my chest. "Thank you." After she left to clean the bathrooms, I opened the envelope. The papers inside were dense with legal language, formatted with the cold precision of a document designed to end things. I scanned through the whereas and heretofores until I found the section that mattered. Petitioner alleges that respondent entered into marriage with petitioner for financial gain and has contributed negligibly to the marital estate. Petitioner seeks enforcement of prenuptial agreement and dissolution of marriage with no spousal support. Negligibly. That was the word she'd chosen. Not differently. Not in other ways. Negligibly. As if 8 years of my life could be rounded down to 0. I took photos of every page, sent them to Marcus with a message. "It's official." His response, "Good. Let the games begin." I spent the rest of the day in a strange fog. Went through the motions of work, phone calls with clients, market analysis, the routine of managing other people's money while my own life fell apart. Around 3, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. David Chen. I answered on speaker, still staring at stock charts that refused to make sense. "Mr. Chen, this is Richard Morrison, from Morrison, Barrett and Associates. A man's voice this time. Older, authoritative. The kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. I'm the managing partner at the firm, representing your wife." I thought Jennifer Walsh was handling this. Miss Walsh is lead counsel. Yes. But given the profile of this case, I wanted to reach out personally. I understand you've retained Marcus Webb. I have. Marcus is a good attorney, passionate, though perhaps a bit zealous in his advocacy. I'm calling to see if we might avoid some of the ugliness that can come with contested divorces. Mrs. Marcus is prepared to be quite generous, given the circumstances. What circumstances would those be? A pause, calculated. The circumstances of your financial dependence during the marriage. The disparity in your contributions to the marital estate. Mrs. Marcus understands that you may have become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. She's willing to provide a transition package, enough to help you reestablish yourself. I leaned back in my chair, looked out at the city. How generous of her. Now, she's thinking a lump sum, $250,000, plus 6 months to find alternative housing. It's more than the prenup requires, but she wants this to be amicable. Amicable. Yes. Tell me something, Mr. Morrison. Does Mrs. Marcus know you're making this call? Another pause. Longer this time. Mrs. Marcus has authorized us to negotiate on her behalf. That's not what I asked. She's aware of the general parameters of our settlement offer. But she doesn't know you're calling me directly, does she? She's in Singapore. Or maybe she's back by now. Either way, she's got you making the call. Because she can't be bothered to talk to me herself. Mr. Chen. Tell her no. Tell her I'll see her in court. And tell her to ask Jennifer Walsh about my financial contributions to this marriage. Because I have a feeling your star attorney might have missed a few details. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something else. Something that felt like power. The phone rang again immediately. Marcus, did Richard Morrison just call you? He asked. How did you? He called me first, trying to go around me to get to you. Classic Morrison move. What did you say? I told him no. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. David, They're panicking. They wouldn't be offering settlements this early if they weren't worried about something. What would they be worried about? She's the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I'm just her husband. Exactly. You're her husband. And in New York, that means something. It means you were a team. It means your contributions matter, financial or otherwise. And based on what you sent me last night, your contributions were very much financial. So what happens now? Now we file our response. We accept service of the divorce petition and we counterclaim. We're going to ask for equitable distribution of all marital assets. The penthouse, the Hamptons house, her stock options, retirement accounts, everything acquired during the marriage. I don't want her company. This isn't about what you want. This is about establishing your value, about making sure the record shows exactly who you are and what you brought to this marriage. And David, when we're done, every judge, every clerk, every person in that courtroom is going to know that you were not a gold digger. After we hung up, I walked through the penthouse, really looked at it for the first time in months. The art on the walls, some of it chosen by Vanessa, some by the designer she'd hired, none by me. The furniture arranged in perfect geometries of style over comfort. The kitchen I'd cooked in maybe a dozen times because Vanessa preferred restaurants or catered meals or not eating at all. This wasn't a home. It was a showroom, and I'd been living in it like a ghost. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hi David, this is Tom Bradford. I'm not sure if you remember me. We met at the M&H holiday party last year. I heard about you and Vanessa. I'm sorry, man. That sucks. I stared at the message. Tom Bradford, CFO, the one Vanessa had hired 8 months ago. Harvard MBA, formerly at Goldman. Exactly the kind of pedigree she respected. I remembered him mostly as a firm handshake and an expensive watch. Thanks, I typed back. Yeah, it's been rough. Listen, I wanted to give you a heads up. There's something you should know about the divorce, about why it's happening now. My pulse quickened. What do you mean? 3 dots, then nothing, then 3 dots again. Finally, can we meet? I'd rather not text this. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Midtown. Neutral territory. The kind of place where tech bros took meetings and tourists ordered lattes with 7 modifiers. I got there first, ordered a black coffee I didn't want, sat in the back where I could see the door. Tom arrived 15 minutes late, looking nervous. He'd lost weight since the holiday party, had the particular hollowness around the eyes that came from not sleeping. Thanks for meeting me, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. I wasn't sure if you would. You said there was something I should know. He looked around, lowered his voice. Vanessa is having an affair. I'd suspected, had known really, in that way, things you're not ready to know. But hearing it said out loud still felt like a punch. With who? His name is Blake Foster. He's a partner at Morrison, Barrett and Associates. The law firm. Her law firm. Her divorce lawyer. Not exactly. He's corporate law. M and A mostly. But he works at the same firm as Jennifer Walsh. That's how they met. Vanessa hired Morrison Barrett to handle some acquisitions last year. She and Blake hit it off. Started as professional lunches, then dinners, then... He shrugged. You can fill in the rest. How do you know this? I'm the CFO. I see the expense reports, the dinner receipts, hotels charged to the company card. I confronted her about it last month. Told her it was a liability, that if the board found out she was having an affair with outside counsel and expensing it, there would be consequences. What did she say? She told me to mind my own business, that she was handling it, that the divorce would be finalized quickly and quietly, and that I should just process the expenses and keep my mouth shut. I drank my coffee. It tasted like betrayal. Why are you telling me this? Tom looked uncomfortable.
Because it's not right, what she's doing. Blake Foster is going to be working on your divorce.
He's not officially representing her, that would be an ethics violation, but he's consulting with Jennifer Walsh, feeding her information. And when this is over, when you're out of the picture, they'll probably go public. They're using the firm to end my marriage so they can start their relationship. Basically, yes. I laughed. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all. My wife was divorcing me with the help of her boyfriend, who worked at her law firm, while calling me a gold digger. It was almost poetic. David, there's more. The financial impropriety thing Jennifer mentioned in the filing, that came from Blake. He's been looking into your consulting business, trying to find something questionable. Conflicts of interest, unreported income, anything they can use to paint you as dishonest. My business is clean. I believe you. But Blake is good at finding problems where none exist. He's a corporate lawyer. It's literally what he does for a living. Find loopholes, create narratives, make things look different than they are. How do I prove the affair? You can't. Not directly. Vanessa's too smart to leave obvious evidence. But the expense reports are in the company system. The hotel charges, dinners for two charged to M&H. If you subpoena them, you'll see a pattern. Those are corporate records, which you're entitled to request as part of discovery, especially if there's an allegation of financial impropriety. You can argue you need to see all expenses related to Vanessa's business dealings to verify that no marital assets were used inappropriately. I looked at him. Really looked. Why are you doing this? You could lose your job. Probably will, he said quietly. But I've got kids, 2 daughters, and I keep thinking about what I'd want someone to do if their mom was being railroaded like this. I'd want someone to tell the truth. We sat there in silence for a moment. The coffee shop buzzed around us with the sound of other people's normal lives. Freelancers on laptops, first dates, business meetings. None of them knew that worlds were ending over overpriced lattes. Thank you, I said finally. Just be careful, okay? Vanessa's ruthless when she's cornered, and Blake is worse. They'll come at you with everything. After he left, I sat there for a long time. Thought about Vanessa and Blake. Tried to remember if I'd noticed anything. Any signs. Any moments when she'd seemed different. Distant. Guilty. But she'd been distant for 3 years. How would I know which distance was which? I texted Marcus. Need to talk. Urgent. His response? My office. 1 hour. Marcus's office was in a building that had seen better days, mid-century modern, that had missed the Renaissance and gone straight to shabby. But his practice was thriving. Divorce law in Manhattan was recession-proof, he liked to say. People got married in good times and divorced in all times. I told him everything. The affair, Blake Foster, the expense reports, the corporate espionage masquerading as love. When I finished, he was smiling. Not the sympathetic smile, the shark smile. This, he said, is exactly what we needed. Her cheating on me? Her cheating on you with someone at the firm representing her in the divorce. David, this is a conflict of interest. A massive one. If we can prove Blake Foster is involved in your divorce proceedings while having a relationship with Vanessa, we can get the whole firm disqualified. Can we prove it? With Tom's help? Maybe. We'll subpoena the expense reports, cross-reference them with court filings and strategy sessions, build a timeline. And when we depose Vanessa, we'll ask her about Blake. Under oath. She'll lie. Probably. But lying under oath is perjury. And even Vanessa Marcus can't make that go away. I left his office feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Maybe. Or vindication. Or just the simple satisfaction of knowing I wasn't crazy. That my marriage had ended not because I was insufficient, but because she'd found someone new. It didn't make it hurt less, but it made it make sense. The sun was setting when I got back to the penthouse. The sky over Central Park was doing that thing it does, turning shades of orange and purple that no photograph ever quite captures. I stood at the window and watched the day end. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was probably with Blake, having dinner, making plans, building a future that didn't include me. And somewhere in an office building in Midtown, documents were being prepared that would change everything. I poured myself a scotch, raised the glass to the window, to the city, to the coming storm. "See you in court," I said to my reflection. The glass was empty before the sun finished setting. Vanessa came back from Singapore on a Friday. I know because the doorman called to warn me. Miguel, who'd worked the building for 12 years, who remembered when we first moved in and Vanessa kissed me in the lobby like we were the only two people in the world. "Mr. Chen," he said, voice low and apologetic, "Mrs. Marcus just pulled up. Thought you'd want to know." I was in the bedroom, packing. Not leaving, not yet, but organizing. Separating what was mine from what was hers from what was ours. Turns out, when you've been married 8 years, the archaeology of separation is complicated. "Thanks, Miguel." I heard the elevator, her heels on the marble. The particular rhythm of Vanessa arriving anywhere, purposeful, precise, territorial. The door opened, closed. Silence for a moment while she processed that I was home. Then, "David?" Her voice sounded the same. That's what struck me. After everything, the divorce papers, the lawyers, the allegations, she still sounded like herself. Like the woman who used to call my name from the shower asking me to bring her a towel. Like my wife. Except she wasn't. Not anymore. "In here," I called back. She appeared in the bedroom doorway. Still in her travel clothes, black cashmere, designer jeans, the leather jacket I'd bought her for our 5th anniversary. She looked tired, jet-lagged, beautiful in that way that hurt to look at. "You're packing," she observed. "Organizing." Same thing. I folded a shirt, mine, definitely mine, bought before we met and placed it in a box. "How was Singapore?" "Productive." She set down her bag, crossed her arms. "We need to talk." "Your lawyer's already said everything. 250,000 in 6 months to find a new place. Very generous." "That wasn't my idea." Richard took initiative. "But you authorized it." She looked away, out the window, at the view she'd bought. "I thought it might be easier, cleaner." "Easier for who?" "Both of us." I laughed, couldn't help it. "Vanessa, you served me divorce papers while you were on a plane to Asia. You had your lawyer call me, instead of calling yourself." "You're alleging I'm a gold digger when you know that's not true. Nothing about this is easy for me. I know what you make, David. I've always known." "Then why?" "Because it's not about the money!" Her voice cracked. First real emotion I'd heard from her in months. "It's about everything else. About how this became my life, and you became peripheral to it." "Peripheral? I don't mean it like that." "How do you mean it?" She sat on the edge of the bed, our bed, the one we'd picked out together at that overpriced furniture store in Soho. She'd wanted firm, I'd wanted soft. We'd compromised on medium, and neither of us had slept well since. "Do you remember when we met?" she asked. "At that conference? Lest 2-1. Max. Do you remember?" "Austin. 2013. You said paradigm shift was the death of intelligent discourse." A ghost of a smile. "You laughed. No one else laughed. They all took those conferences so seriously, and you just laughed. You were funny. I was trying to impress you. It worked." She looked at me then. Really looked. And for a second, I saw her. The woman I'd married. Not the CEO, not the Ice Queen. Just Vanessa. Scared and tired and maybe even sorry. "I didn't mean for it to go like this," she said quietly. "The divorce. The lawyers. I wanted to tell you myself, but every time I tried, I couldn't find the words. And then it was easier to just let them handle it. Let them call me a gold digger. That was Jennifer's strategy, not mine. But you signed off on it. She didn't deny it. I signed off on winning. I always sign off on winning. Even if it means destroying me. You're not destroyed, David. You're one of the smartest financial minds I know. You'll land on your feet. That's not the point. Then what is? I sat down across from her, close enough to smell her perfume Chanel, the one I'd bought her for Christmas 3 years running because she never remembered to buy it herself. Close enough to see the fine lines around her eyes that she covered with expensive creams and strategic lighting. The point is that you're erasing me, I said. Revising history, making it seem like I was some kind of parasite when you know that I supported you, that I believed in you when nobody else did, that I put my own career on hold because you asked me to. I never asked you to stop working. You asked me to stop working 80-hour weeks, to be available, to manage our life. What did you think that meant? What did you think that meant? She was quiet for a long time. Outside, the city hummed with its Friday night energy, people going to dinner, to bars, to lives that made sense. Finally, she said, I think I thought you'd always be there, that no matter what I did or didn't do, you'd always be there. And then one day, I realized that wasn't fair to you, that you deserve someone who could give you more attention, more time, more. So, you're divorcing me for my own good. I'm divorcing you because I met someone else. There it was, the truth, sitting between us like a third person in the marriage. Blake Foster, I said. Her head snapped up. How did you... I have friends too, Vanessa. People who think I deserve to know the truth. She stood, paced to the window. It's not what you think. He's a lawyer at the firm representing you in our divorce. A divorce you're pursuing so you can be with him. What part am I misunderstanding? Blake isn't involved in the divorce. He does corporate law. But he works with Jennifer, consults with her, helps her strategize. That's not... She stopped, realized. Tom told you. Does it matter who told me? Tom is going to lose his job. Tom did the right thing. She spun around, and there it was, the CEO face, the boardroom face, the face that had stared down investors and competitors and anyone who stood between her and what she wanted. You want to play this game? She said, voice cold now. Fine, let's play. You think you can prove an affair? Good luck. Blake and I have been careful. No emails, no texts, nothing you can subpoena. Except the expense reports. Corporate dinners, perfectly legitimate. Hotel rooms, business travel, shared accommodations to save costs. In the same room? In the same hotel. Separate rooms. You want to depose every executive who's ever shared a floor with another executive at a conference? I stood, faced her across the bedroom that suddenly felt like a battlefield. Here's what I know, Vanessa. I know you're lying. I know Blake is helping Jennifer try to destroy me in court. And I know that when we get in front of a judge, the truth is going to come out. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, the truth is that you lived off me for 8 years while pretending to work. The truth is that you contributed almost nothing to this marriage except emotional labor that I never asked for. The truth is that you were convenient when I needed someone and inconvenient when I didn't. Each word was a knife, precisely placed, designed to cut. If that's what you really think, I said quietly, then you never knew me at all. Maybe I didn't, or maybe I knew exactly who you were and just stopped caring. She left the bedroom. I heard her in the study, opening drawers, gathering things. When she came out, she had a small bag. I'm staying at the Carlisle until this is settled, she said. My lawyers will be in touch about the discovery schedule. Try not to make this harder than it needs to be. Vanessa. What? I wanted to say 1,000 things. That I still loved her. That I hated her. That she'd become someone I didn't recognize. That maybe I'd become someone she didn't recognize either. That marriages don't die all at once, but in degrees, in moments of coldness that accumulate like snow until you're buried. Instead, I said, I hope he makes you happy. She looked at me for a long moment. Something flickered across her face. Regret, maybe. Or just exhaustion. Happiness was never the goal, she said. Then she left. I stood there in the empty penthouse for a long time. Listened to the silence. Felt the weight of 8 years of marriage dissolving into nothing. Then I called Marcus. She admitted the affair, I said when he answered. She what? Just now. She came home. We talked. She admitted she's seeing Blake Foster. Said they've been careful. No evidence. But she admitted it. David, did you record this? No. I didn't think. It's okay. It's fine. Did she say anything specific? Timeline? Details? I ran through the conversation. Marcus took notes, asked questions, built a narrative from the scraps of my disintegrating marriage. This is good, he said finally. Really good. She thinks she's safe because there's no paper trail. But an admission is an admission. You can testify to it. My word against hers. Your word. Plus Tom Bradford's testimony about the expense reports. Your word. Plus a pattern of behavior. David, we can use this. When's the deposition? Next week. Wednesday. Jennifer's office. 9 a.m. It'll be you, me, Jennifer, probably Richard Morrison, and a court reporter. Vanessa won't be there for yours. You okay with that? Yeah. Good. Because we're going to go through everything. Your finances, your marriage, your contributions, every email, every receipt, every moment of your 8 years together. They're going to try to break you down, make you seem pathetic or opportunistic, or both. Can you handle that? I thought about Vanessa's face when she said I was convenient when she needed me and inconvenient when she didn't. Thought about 8 years of becoming smaller so she could become bigger. I can handle it, I said. The week before the deposition, I prepared like I was preparing for war. Marcus sent me binders full of documents, discovery requests, financial statements, a timeline of my marriage that read like an autopsy report. Here's when it was healthy. Here's when it got sick. Here's when it died. I reviewed every email I'd sent Vanessa during our marriage. Hundreds of them. Thousands. I love you. And thinking of you. And proud of you. And here for you. A record of devotion that she'd probably deleted without reading. I also found the email I'd sent her 3 years ago when she made CEO. V is V. I know you're swamped with press and board meetings and 1,000 other things. But I wanted to say this somewhere you might actually see it. I am so incredibly proud of you. Not because you're successful, though you are, but because you never gave up. Because you believed in yourself even when it was terrifying. Because you're exactly who you were always meant to be. I love you. I've always loved you. I will always love you. Is. Her response had come 6 hours later. Thanks. Crazy day. Talk later. We never did talk later. I spent Sunday with my family. My mother made pot roast my favorite. The one she used to make when I was a kid and life was simpler. My father asked careful questions about the divorce, then dropped it when he saw I didn't want to talk. Melissa sat next to me on the couch and didn't say anything, just put her hand on my shoulder. You're going to be okay, she said. I know. No, I mean really okay. Not just surviving. Actually okay. How do you know? Because you're finally fighting back. And the David who fights back is the David I remember. The one who stood up to his middle school bully. The one who argued down Dad's business partners when they tried to screw him. You've been soft for too long. It's nice to see the spine again. Monday, I met with Marcus for a mock deposition. He played Jennifer Walsh, asked me brutal questions in her voice, tried to make me crack. Mr. Chen, isn't it true that you pursued Vanessa Marcus specifically because she was a rising star in the tech industry? No, but you knew she had potential, knew she came from wealth, knew that being with her could provide you with a lifestyle you couldn't achieve on your own. I fell in love with her because she was brilliant and funny and made me feel less alone in the world. The money had nothing to do with it." End quote. Yet you stopped working full-time shortly after she became CEO. Convenient timing, wouldn't you say? I reduced my hours at her request. She wanted someone managing our home life. I still maintained a full client load and earned over $500,000 annually. From what sources? Investment consulting, private clients, asset management, all documented and taxed appropriately. On and on, for 3 hours. By the end, I was exhausted, but ready. "You're going to do great," Marcus said. "Just remember, tell the truth. Don't embellish. Don't get emotional. Let the facts speak for themselves." Tuesday night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what tomorrow would bring. The deposition, the questions, the slow, methodical dismantling of my marriage under oath. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Good luck tomorrow. You deserve better than what she's giving you. Tom." I typed back, "Thank you for everything. Just tell the truth. That's all you need to do." I set the phone down, closed my eyes, thought about truth, about how it's supposed to set you free, about how sometimes it just sets everything on fire. Either way, tomorrow, I'd find out. The offices of Morrison, Barrett, and Associates occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in Midtown, all chrome and leather and the kind of art that costs more than it's worth. The receptionist who greeted us had the practiced smile of someone paid to be pleasant to people about to have the worst day of their lives. "Mr. Webb, Mr. Chen," she said. "Conference room C. Can I get you coffee? Water?" "We're fine," Marcus said, though I wasn't sure that was true. Conference room C was windowless, probably intentional. Nothing to distract from the business of taking someone's life apart piece by piece. A long table, chairs. A court reporter already set up with her stenography machine. And Jennifer Walsh. She stood when we entered, tall, mid-40s, wearing a navy suit that probably cost what I used to make in a month before I met Vanessa. Her handshake was firm, professional. The grip of someone who'd crushed better men than me before breakfast. "David," she said, "thank you for being punctual." Not Mr. Chen. David. Deliberately casual. Designed to make me feel less than. "Wouldn't miss it," I said. Richard Morrison arrived 5 minutes later, followed by an associate I didn't recognize, young, female, carrying enough binders to build a small library. They arranged themselves across the table like a firing squad. The court reporter swore me in, raised my right hand, promised to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. "State your full name for the record," Jennifer began. "David Michael Chen." "And your date of birth?" "The 15th of March, 1984. "Current address?" I gave her the penthouse address. Heard how ridiculous it sounded out loud. 5th Avenue, 32nd floor. The kind of address that made people think you had money. "How long have you lived there?" 6 years. We bought it in 2019. "We being you and Mrs. Marcus?" "Yes." "And who provided the down payment for that property?" Marcus shifted beside me. Jennifer was starting with money. Of course she was. "Both of us. Mrs. Marcus contributed approximately 60%. I contributed 40%. In actual dollar amounts, the down payment was $2.4 million. She paid $1.4. I paid $1 million. Jennifer made a note. And where did your $1 million come from? A combination of savings from my consulting work and the liquidation of some family investments. My grandmother had passed away the previous year and left me a portion of her estate. How much was that inheritance? Approximately $800,000 after taxes. So you used your inheritance to buy into Mrs. Marcus's property. I used my money to buy our home. She smiled, thin, sharp. Let's talk about your employment history, Mr. Chen. What do you currently do for work? I'm an independent financial consultant. I provide investment advisory services to private clients. How many clients do you currently have? 12 active clients, another 6 on retainer for quarterly consultations. And what do you charge these clients? It varies. Hourly rates range from $400 to $800 depending on the complexity of the work. Some clients pay a flat monthly fee for ongoing portfolio management. What was your gross income in 2024? $553,000 in consulting fees. An additional $183,000 in investment returns. From my personal portfolio, approximately $736,000 total. I watched her absorb that, saw the slight tightening around her eyes. This wasn't the number she wanted. And in 2023, $544,000 in fees, $157,000 in returns, just over $700,000 total. 2022, $521,000 in fees, $124,000 in returns, $4,000 in fees. I see. She flipped through her notes, recalculating. Mr. Chen, when did you and Mrs. Marcus marry? The 18th of June, 2017. And what was your annual income in 2017? $294,000. I was working full-time at Whitmore Financial then, senior analyst position. When did you leave Whitmore? November 2018. Why did you leave? This was it. The narrative she wanted to build. The gold digger who quit working once he married into money. At Mrs. Marcus's request, I said carefully. She'd just been promoted to Chief Operating Officer. Her hours had become intense. 70, 80, sometimes 90 hours a week. We discussed it and agreed that it would benefit our marriage if one of us had more flexibility, more availability. So you quit your job. I transitioned to independent consulting. I didn't quit working. I changed how I worked. But your income dropped, didn't it? From 2018 to 2019? Initially, yes. Building a client base takes time, but by 2020, I was exceeding what I made at Whitmore. Yet you continued to live off Mrs. Marcus's income. I contributed to our household expenses proportionally to our incomes, which means Mrs. Marcus paid the majority of everything. Marcus cut in. Objection. That's not a question. That's commentary. Jennifer didn't blink. Let me rephrase. Mr. Chen, who paid the mortgage on your Fifth Avenue residence? Mrs. Marcus, from our joint account. Who paid for the Hamptons house? Both of us. I contributed 30% of the purchase price. But the mortgage payments? Primarily Mrs. Marcus. Who paid for your vehicles? She paid for hers. I paid for mine. What do you drive, Mr. Chen? A 2022 Audi. A 6. Purchased new? Yes. How much did that cost? Approximately $60,000. And Mrs. Marcus drives? A Tesla Model S and a Range Rover. Combined value? I'm not sure. $200,000. Maybe more. She smiled again. So, even though you claim to earn over $500,000 annually, you chose to drive a car worth a third of what your wife's vehicles cost. Interesting. I don't see what my choice of vehicle has to do with... It speaks to your actual financial position, Mr. Chen. If you were truly earning what you claim, why not buy something comparable to Mrs. Marcus's cars? Unless you were, in fact, dependent on her income for maintaining your lifestyle. Marcus leaned forward. My client's choice to be financially prudent rather than ostentatious is not evidence of dependence. Next question. Jennifer turned a page.
Let's discuss your typical day, Mr. Chen. Walk me through what you did yesterday.
I woke up around 7, made coffee, reviewed Asian market reports. I have clients with international holdings. Took a conference call with a client in Boston at 9. Spent the rest of the morning analyzing portfolio rebalancing options. Had lunch. Afternoon call with a client in San Francisco. Spent 2 hours preparing for this deposition. Made dinner. Went to bed. How many hours would you say you actually worked? 5, maybe 6. 5 or 6 hours. And you charge $400 to $800 per hour for consulting time? Yes. The research and analysis I do outside of client calls is part of my due diligence. I don't bill for every minute I'm thinking about markets. How convenient. So, on a day when you worked 5 hours, you potentially earned what? $2,000? $4,000? It depends on the client and the work. But you're not working 8-hour days. You're not in an office. You're not accountable to anyone except yourself. I'm accountable to my clients and to the SEC. My work is regulated, licensed, and documented. Speaking of documentation, Jennifer pulled out a folder. I'd like to direct your attention to Exhibit 7. This is your tax return from 2023. Can you confirm this is accurate? I looked at the document Marcus passed to me. My tax return. Every line of income. Every deduction. Every number that proved I wasn't what she said I was. Yes, that's accurate. I see here that you claimed a home office deduction. Is that correct? Yes. And where is your home office located? In the penthouse. The study. On the 2nd floor. The penthouse that Mrs. Marcus owns. That we own jointly, but purchased primarily with her funds. So you claimed a tax deduction for using space in a home she paid for. Marcus stood. Counsel, my client has already established that he contributed 40% of the down payment and has paid his proportional share of all household expenses. This line of questioning is repetitive and argumentative. I'm establishing a pattern of financial dependence, Jennifer said coolly. Mr. Chen benefits from Mrs. Marcus's wealth while contributing minimally to the actual household costs. That's categorically false, I said. My voice was steady. Calm. I have contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars to our household over 8 years. I have documentation of every transfer, every payment, Yet you reduced your working hours, stopped pursuing advancement in your field, became, essentially, a part-time consultant, living in luxury accommodations provided by your wife, at her request, so you claim. I have the email. She asked me to be more available, to manage our life together so she could focus on building her company. I did exactly what she asked me to do. Jennifer paused, looked at her notes. This wasn't going the way she'd planned. Mr. Chen, are you aware that Mrs. Marcus has alleged financial impropriety in your consulting business? Here it was. Blake Foster's fishing expedition. I'm aware of the allegation. I'm not aware of any actual impropriety, because there isn't any. You maintain confidential relationships with wealthy clients. How do we know you're reporting all your income? Because I'm licensed by FINRA and the SEC. My business is subject to regular audits. Every transaction is documented and reported. If there were impropriety, the regulators would have found it years ago. Unless you're very good at hiding it. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. That's defamatory and you know it. Unless you have actual evidence of wrongdoing, these insinuations stop now. Jennifer didn't flinch. I'm exploring the respondent's credibility. If he's claiming significant income that can't be verified, it can be verified. Every penny can be verified. Every client, every transaction, every deposit. You want to see my books? Subpoena them. You'll find exactly what I've told you. A legitimate, successful consulting practice that has earned over $500,000 annually for the past 5 years. The room was quiet. The court reporter's fingers hovered over her machine. Richard Morrison was watching Jennifer, waiting to see where she went next. Let's talk about your marriage, Jennifer said finally. When did you and Mrs. Marcus start having problems? A different approach. Emotional territory. I don't know that there was a specific moment. Things changed gradually after she became CEO. Changed how? She worked longer hours, traveled more. We saw each other less, talked less, connected less. Did you fight? Not really. We just existed in the same space without really being together. Whose fault was that? I looked at her. I don't think marriage problems are usually one person's fault. But if you had to assign percentage of blame, end quote. Marcus objected. I answered anyway. I blame myself for not speaking up sooner, for letting things drift, for thinking that if I just stayed quiet and supportive, she'd eventually have time for us again. And you blame Mrs. Marcus for? For forgetting that success isn't the same as happiness. For choosing her company over her marriage. For, I stopped, swallowed, for falling in love with someone else. Jennifer went very still. Excuse me? Gay? Excuse me? Blake Foster, partner at this firm. Mrs. Marcus is having an affair with him. Has been for at least 6 months. That's why we're getting divorced. Not because I'm a gold digger. Because she wants to be with him. That's a serious allegation, Mr. Chen. It's the truth. She admitted it to me last Friday. In our bedroom. Said they'd been careful. No evidence. But she didn't deny it. Men. Also. Often. Once so. Also so. Also. Many. Many. Also. Also. Many. Richard Morrison leaned toward Jennifer. Whispered something. She shook her head. Do you have proof of this alleged affair? She asked. My testimony. Under oath. Right now. Your testimony about a private conversation. Hardly conclusive. Then there are the expense reports. Dinners with Blake charged to the company. Hotel rooms. A pattern of meetings that went beyond professional. Corporate entertainment is standard practice. Not when you're sleeping with the person you're entertaining. Jennifer closed her folder. I think we need a break. She and Richard left the room. The associate followed. The court reporter asked if I wanted water. I said yes. Drank it too fast. Felt dizzy. That was beautiful, Marcus said quietly. Absolutely beautiful. I just told the truth. The truth that they weren't expecting. Jennifer thought she'd break you down, make you look pathetic. Instead, you looked credible, successful, and wronged. That's exactly where we want to be. They came back 15 minutes later. Jennifer's face was composed, but there was something different. A calculation, a reassessment. Mr. Chen, let's continue. You mentioned expense reports. How did you obtain information about Mrs. Marcus's corporate expenses? I didn't obtain them. Someone told me about them. Who? I'd rather not say. You are under oath. Who told you about these expense reports? I looked at Marcus. He nodded. Tom Bradford, Chief Financial Officer at Marcus & Holt Technologies. Jennifer wrote that down, underlining it. Tom was going to pay for this, but he'd known that when he told me. And what did Mr. Bradford tell you? That Mrs. Marcus had been charging dinners and hotel accommodations with Blake Foster to the company, that he'd confronted her about it being a liability, that she told him to process the expenses and stay quiet. These are serious allegations against both Mrs. Marcus and a member of this firm. I'm aware. If they're true, they represent both corporate misconduct and a conflict of interest. I'm aware of that too. She looked at Richard Morrison. He shook his head slightly. A conversation happening in silence. I think, Jennifer said slowly, we should pause this deposition.
There are some matters that need to be clarified before we continue.
Clarified how? Marcus asked.
I need to consult with my client and with firm management. If there's even a possibility that a member of our firm has been involved inappropriately with the opposing party in a divorce proceeding, we need to address it immediately. So you're suspending the deposition?
Postponing. We'll reconvene next week. Same time.
Marcus smiled. The shark smile. We'll be here.
We left Morris and Barrett and walked out into the afternoon sunlight. The city was alive around us, people rushing to meetings, to lunches, to lives that made sense.
What just happened?
I asked. You dropped a bomb, Marcus said. If Blake Foster has been consulting on your divorce while having a relationship with Vanessa, that's a massive conflict. The firm could be disqualified.
The whole case could be thrown into chaos. Jennifer knows it. Richard knows it. They're scrambling.
Will it matter? In court? Maybe. In the court of public opinion? Definitely. The CEO of a Fortune 500 company divorcing her husband while having an affair with the lawyer working on her case? That's a headline.
I don't want headlines.
You might not have a choice. But David, you did great in there. You were calm, credible, and honest. You showed them exactly who you are. Now, they have to recalculate everything.
That night, alone in the penthouse, I got a text from an unknown number. You really did it. You told them about Blake. T.
Had to, I typed back. I'm sorry if this causes problems for you. Already cleaning out my desk.
Worth it. She needed to know she can't just erase people. Thank you for everything.
See you in court.
I set down my phone, looked around the penthouse, at the life I'd built with someone who decided I was disposable. In 5 days, we'd be back in that conference room. Jennifer would ask more questions. I'd give more answers. The truth would keep coming out, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to hide behind. I was ready.
The story broke on Tuesday. Not in the Times or the Journal. They had standards, fact-checkers, a semblance of journalistic integrity. It broke on a legal gossip blog called Manhattan Matrimonial, run by a former paralegal with an axe to grind and a talent for finding leaks. The headline, Fortune 500 CEOs, Divorce Gets Messy. Affair Allegations Rock White Shoe Law Firm. I was having coffee when Melissa called.
Have you seen it? She asked.
Seen what?
Check your email. I'm sending you a link. Brace yourself.
The article was everything I'd feared and nothing I could stop. Anonymous sources, strategic leaks, just enough detail to be credible, just vague enough to avoid libel. Sources close to the divorce proceedings between tech CEO Vanessa Marcus and her husband David Chen report allegations of an extramarital affair between Marcus and Blake Foster, a corporate attorney at Morrison. Barrett and Associates, the same firm representing Marcus in the divorce. The allegations, reportedly made under oath during a deposition last week, raise serious questions about conflicts of interest and professional ethics. Morris and Barrett declined to comment, as did representatives for Marcus and Holt Technologies. One source familiar with the case described the situation as explosive, noting that if proven true, the affair could result in the firm's disqualification and potentially impact the divorce settlement. Marcus, 39, became the youngest female CEO of a Fortune 500 company in 2022. Her marriage to Chen, a financial consultant, has been the subject of recent speculation.
I stopped reading, felt my coffee go cold in my hands. My phone started ringing. Unknown numbers. Reporters, probably. I let them go to voicemail. Then Marcus called.
Don't talk to anyone, he said immediately. No press, no comments. No confirming or denying anything.
I haven't.
Good, because this is going to get worse before it gets better. Vanessa's PR team will go nuclear. They'll spin this as you being a scorned husband making false allegations. They'll dig into your life, your business, your family. Everything is fair game now.
Let them dig. They won't find anything.
It's not about what they find. It's about what they can make it look like they found.
David, we're not just fighting a divorce case anymore. We're fighting a PR war. He was right. By noon, my phone had 17 missed calls. By 2 p.m., there was a reporter in my building lobby. Miguel called to warn me. Mr. Chen, there's a woman here asking questions about you and Mrs. Marcus. I told her to leave, but she's persistent. Thanks, Miguel. I'll use the service entrance if I need to leave. She asked me about your cars, about how often Mrs. Marcus comes and goes, about whether you work. Of course she did. Building a narrative. The gold digger husband in his gilded cage, making accusations to save face. I stayed inside. Worked from home. Actually worked. Consulting calls with clients who didn't care about my personal life as long as I made them money. Around 4, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line: you should see this. No message. Just a link to another article. This one from a business news site. Vanessa Marcus addresses, divorce rumors. Focused on company, not tabloid speculation. There was a photo. Vanessa at a press conference. Composed. Professional. Every inch. The CEO who'd built a billion-dollar company. My personal life is exactly that personal. Marcus told reporters at a quarterly earnings call Tuesday. These allegations are false and defamatory, and my legal team is exploring all options. I'm focused on leading this company and serving our shareholders, not engaging with tabloid speculation. When pressed about whether she would address the specific allegations regarding Blake Foster, Marcus declined to comment, citing ongoing legal proceedings. False and defamatory. She was calling me a liar. Under oath was one thing, provable, documented, witnessed by a court reporter. But now, she was saying it publicly. Painting me as the villain in a story she was writing in real time. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Blake Foster. We need to talk. I stared at it for a long moment. The man who'd been sleeping with my wife wanted to talk. The audacity was almost impressive. No, I typed back. We don't. I think we do. This situation has gotten out of hand. I'd like to explain. You'd like to explain how you've been fucking my wife while helping her lawyers destroy me? I think I understand the situation just fine. 3 dots. Then, it's not what you think. Then what is it? No response. I forwarded the exchange to Marcus with a note. Blake Foster just texted me. His response was immediate. Do not engage. Do not respond. Do not give him anything he can use. Screenshot everything and send it to me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed, our bed, though it hadn't felt like hours in years, and watched the city lights paint patterns on the ceiling. Thought about how quickly a life could unravel. How one truth, spoken under oath, could set off a chain reaction that destroyed everything in its path. Around midnight, my phone rang. Vanessa. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity, or maybe just the muscle memory of 8 years of marriage, made me pick up. You need to retract your statement, she said. No hello. No preamble. Just straight to business. Like I was a vendor who delivered the wrong product. I was under oath. I can't retract the truth. It's not the truth. Blake and I are colleagues, friends, at most. You've created a narrative that doesn't exist. I created it? Vanessa, you admitted the affair to me. In our bedroom, last Friday. I said I'd met someone. I didn't say it was Blake. You didn't deny it when I said his name. Silence. The kind that confirms everything. This is destroying both of our reputations, she said finally. Mine, professionally. Yours, personally. We need to find a way to make this go away. How do you propose we do that? I'm prepared to revise my settlement offer. Significantly. $500,000. Plus the Hamptons house. Plus 1 year to find alternative housing. All you have to do is sign a non-disclosure agreement stating that you won't make any further public statements About our marriage or the divorce? You want to buy my silence. I want to end this before it ruins both of us. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Vanessa, you called me a gold digger. You served me divorce papers while you were on a plane. You've been having an affair with your lawyer's colleague, while your legal team tries to prove I'm a parasite. And now you want me to be quiet about it? I want us both to walk away with our dignity intact. My dignity isn't for sale, not for 500,000, not for 5 million. You want this to end. Tell the truth. Admit the affair. Admit that you're divorcing me because you fell in love with someone else, not because I'm some kind of financial leech. I can't do that. Why not? Because the board would force me out. The shareholders would revolt. A CEO having an affair with outside counsel? It's a liability. It's the truth. The truth doesn't matter if it destroys everything I've built. Then I guess we have different values. She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was different, smaller, almost like the woman I'd married. David, please. I know I've hurt you. I know I've been cold and distant and unfair. But this public war, it's not who we are. It's who you made us. I'm asking you, as someone who used to love me, please make this stop. I did love you, past tense. And you know what? I think part of me still does, which is why this hurts so much. But I'm not going to lie for you, Vanessa. Not under oath. For you. Not in public. Not anymore. I hung up before she could respond. The next morning, Morrison Barrett released a statement. After careful review, Morrison, Barrett, and Associates has determined that Blake Foster will recuse himself from any matters related to Marcus versus Chen. While we maintain that all professional conduct has been appropriate and ethical, we believe this step is necessary to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Mr. Foster will be taking a leave of absence, pending resolution of these matters. Reading between the lines, they couldn't fire him without admitting there was something to fire him for, but they also couldn't keep him on the case, so they were benching him. Saving face, while covering their asses. Marcus called with an update. Jennifer wants to reschedule your deposition. Says they need time to reassess their strategy, given recent developments. Translation? They're scrambling. The Blake situation has thrown their whole case into chaos. They can't use him as a consultant anymore. Can't risk him being deposed. And they know that every question we ask Vanessa about him is a landmine. When's her deposition? Next Friday. You'll be there. You get to sit across from her and watch her answer questions under oath about your marriage, her finances, and yes, Blake Foster. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. You don't have to be ready. You just have to show up. Thursday morning, I got a call from Tom Bradford. I thought you should know, he said. Vanessa fired me. Tom, I'm so sorry. Don't be. I knew it was coming the second you mentioned my name in the deposition. She called me into her office yesterday, told me I'd violated company confidentiality, and had security escort me out. 8 years at M&H, gone in 15 minutes. This is my fault. This is her fault, for creating a situation where telling the truth gets you fired. But listen, there's something else. Before they locked me out of the system, I downloaded the expense reports. All of them. Every dinner with Blake. Every hotel. Every paper trail they thought they'd buried. You did what? I sent them to your lawyer. Marcus has them now. Along with some internal emails between Vanessa and Blake that, well, let's just say they're not particularly professional in tone. Tom? They could charge you with, quote, there was. Corporate espionage? Maybe. But I kept copies of everything I submitted to the board about those expenses. Every time I flagged something inappropriate and got overruled. I've got documentation that I tried to do the right thing and got shut down. If they come after me, I'll show a judge that I was a whistleblower, not a thief. After we hung up, I sat with that information for a long time, Tom had sacrificed his career for the truth, had walked into the fire knowing he'd get burned. The least I could do was make it count. Friday afternoon, Marcus sent me the expense reports. 12 pages of dinners at high-end restaurants. Hotel stays in the same cities on the same nights. A pattern so obvious it was almost insulting. And the emails. God, the emails. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. We need to be more careful, but I don't regret a second. B. Blake. Neither do I. Though we should probably stop using company email for this. See you Thursday. V. Blake. Blake. Blake Christes. Blake. Blake. Thursday works. Same hotel? B. Same hotel. I'll book it. V. There were dozens of them. Spanning 8 months. Starting 3 weeks after Blake joined Morrison Barrett as a partner. A timeline that showed exactly when my marriage had ended, even if I'd been too blind to see it. Marcus called. You've seen them? Yeah. This is it, David. This is everything we need. The affair's documented. The conflict of interest is clear. And the fact that she fired Tom for exposing it just makes her look worse. Quote, what happens now? Now we prepare for Vanessa's deposition. We show her these emails. We ask her to explain them under oath. And we watch her choose between perjury and admission. She'll choose perjury. Maybe. But even Vanessa Marcus can't lie her way out of her own emails. That weekend, I prepared. Read through every email, every expense report, every piece of evidence that proved what I already knew. My wife had fallen in love with someone else and had been willing to destroy me to hide it. Saturday night, Melissa came over with Chinese takeout and moral support. How are you holding up? She asked, settling onto the couch with her sweet and sour chicken. I honestly don't know. Some moments I feel strong, clear, like I'm finally standing up for myself after years of making myself smaller. Other moments, I just feel sad, like I'm grieving someone who's still alive. You are grieving. You're grieving the version of Vanessa you thought you married. The woman who existed before ambition ate her alive. Do you think she was always this person, and I just didn't see it? Melissa was quiet for a moment. I think people show you who they are in small ways, and then life gives them opportunities to be more of that person. Vanessa was always ambitious, always a little cold. But when you two first got together, she softened around you. She laughed more, seemed more human. Then she got power. And power doesn't change you. It just amplifies who you already are. So I married someone who was always capable of this. You married someone who loved you, until she loved success more. That's not a reflection on you, David. That's a reflection on her priorities. We ate in silence for a while. The city glittered below us, indifferent to heartbreak, reminder, health, within us, within us, within us command, within us calm. Within us command, within us calm, within us calm, within us command, within us command, within us command, and us command, within us command. Next Friday, I said, her deposition. I have to sit there and watch her answer questions about our marriage, about Blake, about all of it. You want me to come? You can't. Only lawyers and parties to the case. Then call me right after. And David? Remember that you're not doing this for revenge. You're doing it for truth. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah. Revenge is about hurting someone. Truth is about setting the record straight. You're not trying to destroy Vanessa. You're trying to stop her from destroying you. After she left, I stood at the window and thought about that distinction. Revenge versus truth. Justice versus vindication. Did it matter what I called it as long as the outcome was the same? My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Vanessa's deposition is set for 9 a.m. Friday. Conference Room C. Same place as yours. You ready? As ready as I'll ever be, I typed back. Good. Because this is where we find out if Vanessa Marcus is willing to perjure herself to save her reputation. My money's on yes. But either way, we'll have her on record. I looked around the penthouse. At the life I'd built with someone who'd decided I was expendable. In 6 days. I'd sit across from my wife and listen to her testify about why I wasn't worth keeping. The rain started again around midnight. I stood at the window and watched it fall, thinking about how water reveals the truth of things, how it shows you what's solid and what's just illusion. 6 more days. Then the truth would come out. All of it. Friday morning arrived with fog. Thick and gray, the kind that made Manhattan look like a city suspended in limbo. I stood at the window with coffee I couldn't drink and watched the buildings disappear into white nothing. Thought about how appropriate it was, this erasure of certainty, this blurring of what was real and what was illusion. In 2 hours, I'd sit across from Vanessa and listen to her testify about our marriage. Marcus picked me up at 8:30. We rode to Midtown in silence, both of us understanding that some moments don't need commentary. The city moved around us, people rushing to jobs, to lives, to problems that probably seemed enormous to them but would be forgotten by lunch. "You okay?" Marcus asked as we pulled up to Morrison Barrett's building. "No, but I'll survive. That's the spirit." Conference room C looked exactly the same. Same table, same chairs, same court reporter with her stenography machine. But the energy was different. Charged, like the air before lightning. Jennifer Walsh was already there, arranged behind a fortress of binders. Richard Morrison sat beside her, looking grave and expensive. The young associate from my deposition hovered nearby, ready to fetch documents and absorb collateral damage. And Vanessa. She sat at the head of the table, hands folded, posture perfect. Wearing a charcoal suit I'd never seen before, probably new, probably chosen specifically for this. Her hair was pulled back. No jewelry except her wedding ring. She was still wearing her wedding ring. I don't know why that detail hit me so hard. Maybe because it was such a perfect piece of theater. The wronged wife, still clinging to the symbol of a marriage her gold-digger husband had exploited. The optics were flawless. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. Hers were unreadable. CEO eyes, boardroom eyes, the eyes of someone who'd learned to show nothing she didn't want seen. Then she looked away. The court reporter swore her in. Vanessa raised her right hand, promised to tell the truth, and I wondered if she heard the irony in those words. "Please state your full name for the record," Marcus began. His voice was different than in my deposition. Gentler, almost friendly. A trap disguised as courtesy. "Vanessa Elizabeth Marcus. And your current occupation?" "Chief Executive Officer of Marcus and Holt Technologies." "How long have you held that position?" 3 years. I was promoted to CEO in January 2022. "Congratulations. That's quite an achievement." She nodded, wary, waiting for the blade hidden in the compliment. Marcus smiled. "Mrs. Marcus, how long were you and David Chen married?" 8 years. We married in June 2017. "And when did you decide to divorce him?" "Last October, though I didn't file until December." "What prompted that decision?" Jennifer cut in. Objection. That calls for speculation about Mrs. Marcus's state of mind. "I'm asking her to explain her own decision-making," Marcus said mildly. "I think she's qualified to speak to that." End quote. "You can answer," Jennifer said to Vanessa. Vanessa took a breath, composed herself. Our marriage had been struggling for some time. We'd grown apart. David and I wanted different things from life. It seemed kinder to end it than to continue pretending. Kinder to end it by having your lawyer call him while you were on a plane to Singapore? I was advised that legal representation should handle the initial communication. By whom? My attorneys. Did you want to tell David yourself? A pause. Microscopic. But there. I thought professional distance would be cleaner. Cleaner for whom? For both of us. Marcus made a note. Let's talk about your marriage. When you met David in 2013, what did he do for a living? He was a financial analyst at Whitmore Financial. And what did you do? I was an associate at Marcus & Holt. The company was much smaller then. My father had founded it, and I was working my way up. So you both had careers. Both were financially independent. Yes. What was David's approximate salary when you met him? I don't recall exactly. Maybe 80,000? And yours? The same, perhaps slightly more. Yet in your divorce filing, you allege that David married you for financial gain. How could that be, if you were earning similar amounts when you met? Vanessa's jaw tightened. I said he married me, in part, for financial potential. My family has wealth. The company had growth prospects. David was smart enough to see that. So you believe David married you because he anticipated you might someday be wealthy? I think it was a factor. What other factors were there? I assume he was also attracted to me. We had chemistry, compatibility, the usual things. Did you love him when you married him? Silence. Vanessa looked at Jennifer. Jennifer nodded slightly. I believed I did, Vanessa said quietly. And did he love you? He said he did. Do you believe he did? Another pause. I think David loved the version of me that existed when we met. Before the pressure. Before the company consumed everything. Did the company consume everything? Yes. Including your marriage? Including a lot of things. Marcus turned a page. Mrs. Marcus, in November 2018, David left his position at Whitmore Financial. Do you remember why? He said he wanted more flexibility. Is that what he said? Or is that what you asked for? Vanessa shifted. I may have suggested that one of us should have a more flexible schedule. Why? Because I was working constantly. 80, 90 hours a week. Someone needed to be available. Available for what? For life. For managing our household. For the 1,000 details that pile up when both people are working those hours. So you asked David to reduce his hours. I suggested it might be beneficial. And he did it. Yes. Did you appreciate that sacrifice? Jennifer objected. Calls for speculation about her emotional state. I'll rephrase, Marcus said. Mrs. Marcus, did you express appreciation to David for restructuring his career to support yours? Yes, I'm sure I did. You're sure? Or you remember specifically thanking him? It was years ago. I don't recall specific conversations. Marcus pulled out a document. I'd like to direct your attention to Exhibit 12. This is an email from you to David, dated the 15th of November 2018. Can you read the highlighted portion? Vanessa took the paper. Read silently. Something flickered across her face. Out loud, please. Marcus said. Thank you for being flexible about the Whitmore situation. I know it's a big change, but it means everything to have you managing things while I focus on the company. I couldn't do this without you. Does that refresh your memory about whether you appreciated his sacrifice? Yes. And did you continue to appreciate it? Over the following years. It is with the following years. It is with the following years. By it is with the following. And quoting / Masquez. With the following years. And quoting / with the following. With the following years. I appreciated having a partner who understood my work demands. Even as your income grew exponentially and his income, while substantial, remained relatively stable? His income was his choice. Was it? Or was it the consequence of a choice you asked him to make? He could have worked more if he wanted to. Could he? When you needed him available? When you asked him to manage your life together? Vanessa's composure was cracking. Just slightly. A hairline fracture in marble. David was free to make his own choices about his career, she said. While living in a penthouse you purchased, driving a car worth a third of yours, existing in a life funded primarily by your income, he contributed his share. How much would you estimate David contributed to household expenses over your 8-year marriage? I don't have exact figures. Marcus pulled out another document. Let me help. According to these records, David's bank statements, which he's provided voluntarily, he contributed approximately $1.2 million to joint household expenses between 2017 and 2025. Does that sound accurate? Vanessa looked at the numbers. If those are his records, then I suppose so. You suppose so? You don't know how much your husband contributed financially to your marriage? I handled our finances. I knew he contributed. I didn't track every dollar. But you tracked every dollar of your own contributions. Your filing includes detailed accounting of every expense you paid, every asset you acquired, every investment you made. Yet you didn't track David's contributions? I know. I trusted that he was contributing appropriately. So you trusted him with money, just not with fidelity to the marriage. Jennifer stood. Objection. Counsel is badgering the witness. I'm establishing a pattern of selective accounting, Marcus said. Mrs. Marcus meticulously documented her own financial contributions while ignoring her husband's. That speaks to intent. The intent to manage household finances effectively. Jennifer shot back. Or the intent to later claim he contributed nothing. The room was electric. Vanessa's hands were no longer folded. They gripped the edge of the table. Marcus let the silence breathe for a moment. Then, Mrs. Marcus, do you know a man named Blake Foster? Time stopped. I watched Vanessa's face, saw the micro-expressions flash across it. Surprise, fear, calculation. Then the CEO mask slammed back down. Yes, she said carefully. How do you know him? He's an attorney at Morrison Barrett and Associates. He's handled some corporate matters for M&H. What kind of corporate matters? Mergers and acquisitions, contract negotiations, standard corporate law work. How often do you meet with Mr. Foster? I don't recall exactly. As needed for business purposes. Would you say once a month? Once a week? It varies depending on the deal flow. Marcus pulled out another document. Several documents. I'd like to direct your attention to Exhibits 18 through 24. These are expense reports from Marcus and Holt Technologies, spanning October 2024 through March 2025. Can you identify these? Vanessa took the papers. Her face went pale. These appear to be corporate expense reports. Your corporate expense reports. Specifically, dinners and travel expenses involving Blake Foster. Can you explain why you and Mr. Foster had 17 dinners together over 6 months? We were working on several complex deals. It's normal to have working dinners. At Per Se? At 11 Madison Park? At Jean Georges? These are romantic restaurants. Mrs. Marcus. Not exactly conference rooms. We discussed business in pleasant settings. That's not unusual. What about the hotels? The Four Seasons in Boston, the Ritz-Carlton in Chicago, the Street Regis in Los Angeles. You and Mr. Foster stayed at the same hotels on the same nights on 6 different occasions. Were those working trips? We were both traveling for business. It's coincidence that we stayed at the same hotels. You every day. Well, we were both traveling for business. Coincidence, even though the hotel rooms were booked through your assistant and charged to your corporate card? Vanessa's hands were shaking now. Barely, but visible. I don't recall the booking details. Let me refresh your memory. Marcus pulled out more papers. These are emails between you and Blake Foster, obtained legally through a whistleblower disclosure. Would you like me to read them? Or would you prefer to do it yourself? Jennifer stood again. Where did you get those? From a former employee of Marcus and Holt who believed the company was being used to facilitate an extramarital affair. That employee has filed a complaint with the SEC regarding misuse of corporate funds. Those are privileged communications. They're corporate emails on a corporate server discussing corporate expenses. There's no privilege. Vanessa was looking at the emails. Her lips were pressed into a thin line. Mrs. Marcus, Marcus said gently, you're under oath. I'm going to ask you directly. Are you having an affair with Blake Foster? The silence stretched. I could hear the court reporters breathing, the hum of the ventilation system, my own heartbeat. We've become close, Vanessa said finally. Her voice was barely above a whisper. How close? Romantically involved. While still married to David? Yes. While filing for divorce with the help of the firm where Blake works? Blake isn't working on the divorce, but he's consulted with Jennifer Walsh about strategy, about how to approach David's finances, about how to paint David as a gold digger. Hasn't he? Vanessa looked at Jennifer. Jennifer's face was stone. He may have offered informal advice, Vanessa said. Informal advice from your boyfriend about how to divorce your husband, and you don't see a conflict of interest? Blake and I didn't start. Our relationship didn't become romantic until after I decided to divorce David. When exactly did it become romantic? I don't remember the exact date. Was it before or after October 2024? I'm not sure. Let me show you this email, the 23rd of October, 2024, from Blake to you. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Does this refresh your memory about when your relationship became romantic? Vanessa's composure shattered, completely. Her hands covered her face. Her shoulders shook. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said. I was lonely. David and I had been distant for so long. Blake was there, and he understood the pressure, and I made a mistake. A mistake you continued making for 6 months while divorcing your husband and claiming he was a gold digger? She looked up. Her eyes were red. Mascara streaked her cheeks. This wasn't the CEO anymore. This was just a woman who'd been caught. I'm sorry, she whispered, looking at me now, actually looking at me. David, I'm so sorry. I said nothing. What was there to say? Marcus continued relentless. Mrs. Marcus, did you fire Tom Bradford for exposing your affair? I fired him for violating confidentiality. By telling the truth about how you were misusing company funds? By sharing privileged information. Information about criminal activity isn't privileged, and using corporate funds for personal romantic expenses is fraud. Jennifer finally found her voice. We need to pause this deposition. Mrs. Marcus needs to consult with counsel. Mrs. Marcus has counsel. She has you. But if you're concerned about her Fifth Amendment rights, we can certainly pause. They left the room. Vanessa, Jennifer, Richard, the associate. A hasty retreat. The court reporter looked uncomfortable. Marcus turned to me. You okay? I was watching the door where Vanessa had disappeared, replaying her face when she said she was sorry, wondering if she meant it or if it was just another performance. I don't know, I said. Ask me tomorrow. They came back 20 minutes later. Vanessa had fixed her makeup, recomposed herself, but something was different. The armor was dented. Mrs. Marcus is prepared to continue, Jennifer said. But Marcus was done. He'd gotten what we needed, the admission, the affair, the conflict, all of it on the record. No further questions, he said. We left Morrison Barrett and walked out into afternoon sunlight. The fog had burned off. The city was sharp and clear and real again. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait for the judge to review the transcript. We file a motion to disqualify Morrison Barrett based on conflict of interest. And we let Vanessa explain to her board why she's been committing corporate fraud to fund her affair. Will she lose her job? Probably not. The board might issue a reprimand, maybe a fine, but CEOs like Vanessa don't get fired for affairs. They get golden parachutes and book deals. So she wins, anyway. No. Marcus stopped walking, looked at me. She has to live with what she did, with who she became. That's not winning, David. That's just surviving. That night, alone in the penthouse, I got a text from Vanessa. I meant what I said. I'm sorry. For all of it. I stared at the message for a long time. Finally typed, I know. I'm sorry too. For not seeing it sooner. For thinking love would be enough. It should have been, she wrote back. But it wasn't. No response after that. I stood at the window and watched the city light up. Thought about how truth doesn't set you free. It just shows you the cage you've been living in. But at least now I could see the bars. At least now I knew the way out. The media storm lasted exactly 11 days. 11 days of headlines, speculation, think pieces about power, gender, and corporate ethics, Vanessa's face on business websites, my name in gossip columns. The CEO and the spurned husband, our marriage dissected by strangers with opinions and internet connections. I stopped reading after day 3. Marcus called it a feeding frenzy, said the combination of a female CEO, an affair, and corporate fraud allegations was media catnip. Said we should expect it to get worse before it got better. He was right. Day 4. Someone leaked the deposition transcript. Not the whole thing, just the parts where Vanessa admitted the affair. Just enough to be damaging. Just enough to trend. Day 6. M&H's stock dropped 4%. The board issued a statement expressing full confidence in their CEO, which, in corporate speak, meant they were panicking but couldn't afford to fire her without triggering a leadership crisis. Day 8. Blake Foster resigned from Morrison Barrett. The firm released a statement about personal reasons and pursuing other opportunities. Everyone knew what it really meant. Liability mitigation. Cutting loose, the partner who'd created a conflict of interest so massive it threatened to sink the whole firm. And through it all, I existed in a strange limbo. Not quite divorced, not quite married, just suspended between what was and what would be. They're going to make you an offer, Marcus said on day 9. We were in his office reviewing discovery documents that had multiplied like cancer cells. Vanessa's team is getting desperate. The longer this drags out, the worse it looks for her. What kind of offer? The kind that makes this go away. Quietly. Quickly. With enough money to make you forget you ever had principles. He was right about that, too. The call came on day 10. Jennifer Walsh. Her voice carefully neutral. Professional courtesy, she called it. Again. David, I think we should talk about settlement. We tried that already. I said no. That was before the deposition, before things became complicated. I'd like to extend a revised offer on behalf of Mrs. Marcus. I'm listening. $2 million. The Hamptons house, fully paid. The Audi, and a structured payout of an additional $500,000 over 3 years. In exchange, you sign a comprehensive NDA covering all aspects of the marriage, the divorce, and any related matters. I did the math in my head. $2.5 million total, plus a house worth another $1 million. $3.5 million to disappear. That's a lot of money, I said. It is. More than fair, considering the prenup terms. And the NDA? What exactly would it cover? You wouldn't be able to discuss the marriage publicly. No interviews. No books. No social media posts about Mrs. Marcus or the circumstances of the divorce. You'd be bound to silence in perpetuity. So I take the money and pretend the last 8 years didn't happen. You take the money and move on with your life. Build a new future. Isn't that what you want? I thought about that. What did I want? A week ago, I would have said justice, truth, recognition of my worth. But sitting there in Marcus's office, surrounded by evidence of my wife's betrayal, I wasn't sure anymore. I need to think about it, I said. Of course. But David, this offer expires in 72 hours. After that, we go to court, and court is unpredictable for both of you. After I hung up, Marcus leaned back in his chair. So, what are you thinking? I'm thinking $3.5 million is a lot of money to refuse. It is. And I'm thinking that maybe this isn't about money. Maybe it never was. What's it about then? I looked out his window, at the city, stretching toward the horizon, at the lives being lived in those buildings, people with their own problems, their own betrayals, their own choices about whether to fight or surrender. It's about whether I let her erase me, I said, whether I disappear quietly so she can keep her reputation intact, whether I'm worth more than what she's willing to pay to shut me up. And I think I'd rather go to court. Marcus smiled, the shark smile. I was hoping you'd say that. The next 72 hours were a blur of preparation, discovery responses, witness lists, exhibit preparation. Marcus worked with the focused intensity of someone who smelled blood in the water. The judge assigned to our case is Harriet Levinson. He told me, 20 years on the bench, known for being no-nonsense, and deeply skeptical of prenup enforcement in cases where there's evidence of financial coercion or misrepresentation. Is that good for us? It's very good for us, especially since we can show that Vanessa asked you to reduce your working hours, then tried to use that reduction against you. Judge Levinson doesn't like spouses who game the system. On day 11, I got a text from Vanessa, the first since our brief exchange after her deposition. Please reconsider the settlement offer. Going to court helps neither of us. I stared at it for a long time. Thought about all the texts we'd exchanged over 8 years. I love you, and thinking of you, and can't wait to see you. Thousands of messages that used to mean something. Now, reduced to this. A plea to accept money and stay quiet. I'll see you in court, I typed back. The response came immediately. This is a mistake. For both of us. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. No response after that. The settlement offer expired on a Wednesday. Marcus called Jennifer Walsh at exactly 5:01 p.m. to inform her that we were declining. See you in court then? Jennifer said. She didn't sound surprised. The hearing was scheduled for the following Monday, 9 a.m. Part 11, New York County Supreme Court. Judge Harriet Levinson presiding. I spent the weekend in a fog. Melissa came over on Saturday with takeout and moral support. You're really doing this, she said, watching me review my notes for what felt like the 100th time. I'm really doing this. How do you feel? Terrified, angry, vindicated, all of it at once. That's normal. You're about to sit in a courtroom and watch your marriage become public record. It already is public record. The tabloids saw to that. This is different. This is official, legal, permanent. She paused. Are you sure you're ready? I thought about that. Was I ready? To sit across from Vanessa in a courtroom? To hear her lawyer argue that I was worthless? To defend my contribution to a marriage that had ended in betrayal? No, I said honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. Sunday night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through everything that could go wrong. What if the judge sided with Vanessa? What if the prenup held and I walked away with nothing? What if I'd turned down $3.5 million for nothing but the satisfaction of saying I tried? Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. David, this is Blake Foster. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. Vanessa is panicking. She's going to come at you hard tomorrow. Her lawyers are going to paint you as opportunistic, lazy, vindictive. They're going to try to destroy your credibility. Please be prepared for how ugly this might get. I stared at the message. Blake Foster, the man who'd been sleeping with my wife, warning me about what was coming. The absurdity was almost funny. Why are you telling me this? I typed back. 3 dots. Then, because I feel guilty. Because what we did was wrong. Because you deserve to know what you're walking into. A little late for guilt, don't you think? Yeah, it is. But for what it's worth, Vanessa never stopped talking about you. Even when we were together, she'd reference things you said, ways you thought, moments from your marriage. I don't think she ever stopped loving you. She just loved success more. I didn't respond. What was there to say? That his observation didn't make it hurt less? That knowing Vanessa still loved me in some broken, compartmentalized way just made the betrayal worse? I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. Monday morning arrived gray and cold. March in New York. Caught between winter and spring. Unable to commit to either. I dressed carefully. Navy suit, white shirt, simple tie. Marcus's advice. Look professional, but not ostentatious. You're a successful consultant, not a peacock. Marcus picked me up at 7:30. We rode to the courthouse in silence, both of us mentally preparing for what was coming. The New York County Supreme Court building was all granite and gravitas, built in an era when architecture was meant to intimidate. We passed through security, rode the elevator to Part 11, found seats on the hard wooden benches outside the courtroom. Vanessa arrived at 8:45, flanked by Jennifer Walsh and Richard Morrison. She looked every inch the CEO. Designer suit, perfect posture, the mask firmly in place. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second before she looked away. Blake wasn't there, probably advised to stay away, probably watching from somewhere, guilt and self-interest warring in his corporate lawyer brain. At exactly 9 a.m., the bailiff called us in. All rise. The Honorable Harriet Levinson presiding. Judge Levinson was in her early 60s, with silver hair and reading glasses that she peered over like a disappointed librarian. She took her seat, surveyed the courtroom, and got straight to business. Counsel, this is Marcus versus Marcus. Case number, she referenced her notes. The divorce proceedings between Vanessa Marcus and David Chen. I've reviewed the filings, the depositions, and the rather extensive media coverage. Let me be clear. I don't care about tabloid drama. I care about facts, law, and equitable outcomes. Are we clear? Yes, Your Honor. Both legal teams said in unison. Good. Miss Walsh, you're petitioning for enforcement of the prenuptial agreement and dissolution with no spousal support. Mr. Webb, you're countering with a claim for equitable distribution of marital assets. Is that accurate? Yes, Your Honor, Marcus said. Then let's begin. Miss Walsh, make your case. Jennifer stood, smoothed her suit, launched into her opening. Your Honor, this case is straightforward. Mrs. Marcus and Mr. Chen entered into a valid prenuptial agreement that clearly delineates separate property. Mrs. Marcus has built a billion-dollar company through her own talent, effort, and vision. Mr. Chen, while employed, has contributed minimally to the marital estate and now seeks to capitalize on his wife's success through... Objection, Marcus interrupted. Counsel is characterizing facts, not in evidence. Sustained. Miss Walsh, stick to what you can prove. Jennifer nodded, recalibrated. Your Honor, the evidence will show that Mr. Chen reduced his working hours shortly after Mrs. Marcus's career advancement, that his income remained relatively modest compared to hers, and that he has lived a lifestyle funded primarily by her earnings. The prenup is clear, Separate property remains separate. We ask that you enforce it. Mr. Webb? Marcus stood. His opening was different, quieter, more personal. Your Honor, this case is about a man who loved his wife, who supported her dreams at the expense of his own career advancement, who was asked to be flexible, to be available, to manage their life together so she could build her empire. And now, after 8 years of partnership, she wants to claim he contributed nothing. He paused. Let that sink in.
The evidence will show that David Chen earned over $500,000 annually during this marriage, that he contributed over $1 million to household expenses,
That he sacrificed career opportunities because his wife asked him to.
and that when she fell in love with someone else, someone at the firm representing her in this divorce, she tried to rewrite history to make herself the victim.
Judge Levinson made a note. I've read the deposition transcripts. The affair allegations are concerning, particularly the conflict of interest issues. Miss
Walsh, does your firm have a response to the allegations that Mr. Blake Foster consulted on this case while involved with Mrs. Marcus?
Jennifer stood again. Your Honor, Mr. Foster has resigned from our firm and had no official role in this matter. Any consultations were informal and did not rise to the level of representation.
Informal consultations with your client's boyfriend about how to divorce her husband? That doesn't concern you? Mr. Foster's relationship with Mrs. Marcus began after the decision to divorce was made. According to Mrs. Marcus's testimony under oath, which was contradicted by email evidence showing the relationship began several months earlier. Mrs. Ever.
Walsh, I'm deeply troubled by the ethics of this situation.
The courtroom was silent. I watched Vanessa's face, saw the crack in her composure.
Judge Levinson continued. But that's a matter for the Bar Association, not this court. What I care about is the financial picture. Miss Walsh, you've argued that Mr. Chen contributed minimally to the marriage. What's your evidence for that?
His income, Your Honor, while substantial for an average person, it pales in comparison to Mrs. Marcus's earnings. She made $30 million last year alone.
And Mr. Chen made?
Jennifer consulted her notes, hesitated.
Approximately $550,000.
Judge Levinson looked up, removed her glasses.
I'm sorry, did you say $550,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
So your position is that an annual income of $550,000 constitutes gold digging?
The courtroom seemed to tilt. I watched it happen in slow motion. Vanessa's face going pale, Jennifer's careful composure cracking, Marcus trying not to smile. Your Honor, in the context of Mrs. Marcus's income,
Miss Walsh,
I grew up in Queens. My father was a bus driver. My mother was a nurse. Combined, they never made $550,000 in their entire working lives.
and you're standing in my courtroom arguing that a man earning that much annually was financially dependent on his wife?
In relative terms, there are no relative terms in dependency, counselor. Either someone can support themselves or they can't. Mr. Chen clearly can. Judge Levinson turned to Vanessa.
Mrs. Marcus, did you know your husband earned over $500,000 annually?
Vanessa stood slowly.
Yes, Your Honor.
I knew. And yet your legal team is arguing he's a gold digger? That was their characterization, not mine. But you signed off on the filing. Silence.
Mrs. Marcus,
I'm going to ask you directly. Did you ask your husband to reduce his working hours so he could be more available while you built your career? Vanessa looked at Jennifer. Jennifer nodded slightly. Yes, Your Honor, I did. And did he do that? Yes. Sacrificing potential career advancement to support you? Yes.
And now you want me to enforce a prenup that would give him nothing beyond what he brought into the marriage despite 8 years of partnership and support?
Your Honor, Jennifer tried to interject.
I'm asking Mrs. Marcus, not you.
Vanessa's hands were shaking. I don't know what I want anymore. The admission hung in the air. Raw. Honest. The first true thing she'd said in months.
Judge Levinson sat back.
Well, let me tell you what I want. I want to see actual financial documentation. Every contribution Mr. Chen made to this household. Every sacrifice. Every dollar. Because from where I'm sitting, this looks less like gold digging and more like a woman trying to rewrite history to justify leaving her husband for another man. The gavel came down. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. Both parties will submit complete financial documentation. And Miss Walsh, I suggest you reconsider your strategy. Because right now, you're not making your client look very good. Court adjourned. I sat there, unable to move, unable to process what had just happened. Marcus leaned over. I think, he said quietly, that went well. We left the courthouse into a wall of cameras. Someone had tipped off the media, probably someone from Morrison Barrett, trying to control the narrative before it got away from them. Or maybe it was just inevitable a Fortune 500 CEO's messy divorce was too good a story to ignore. Mr. Chen, how do you feel about the judge's comments? David, are you going to take Mrs. Marcus for everything she's worth? Is it true you're seeking half her company? Marcus put his arm around my shoulders, created a corridor through the crowd. No comment. No comment. My client will not be making any statements at this time. We made it to his car. The driver pulled away from the curb, while camera flashes turned the windows into a strobe light. Jesus, I said, leaning back against the seat. Is it always like that? Come. Is it always like that? Only when you're winning. Marcus was grinning. Actually grinning. Did you see Jennifer's face when Levinson said $550,000 isn't gold digging? That was poetry. What happens now? Now they panic. Now they realize their whole strategy was built on sand. And now they come back with a settlement offer so large it'll make your head spin. He was right. The call came at 2 p.m. I was back in the penthouse, trying to process the morning's events, when my phone rang. Jennifer Walsh, her carefully controlled voice showing stress fractures. David, we need to talk settlement. We've been through this. Not like this. Mrs. Marcus is prepared to make a very substantial offer. I'm listening. $5 million. The Hamptons house. The penthouse shall buy out your 40% at current market value, which is approximately $3 million. Your choice of vehicle. And a structured trust fund that will pay you an additional $250,000 annually for 10 years. Total value, approximately $13.5 million. The number hit like a physical thing. $13.5 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. More money than I'd need in 3 lifetimes. And the NDA? I asked. Comprehensive, covering all aspects of the marriage, the divorce, and any related matters. You'd be bound to silence indefinitely. So I'd be rich and voiceless. You'd be financially secure for the rest of your life. Isn't that what divorce settlements are supposed to provide? I thought about that. Was it? Was the point of all this just to extract maximum value from a failed marriage? To turn love into currency and walk away with a good exchange rate? I need to consult with my attorney, I said. Of course. But David, this offer expires at 5 p.m. tomorrow. After that, we go back to court, and Judge Levinson will make the decision for both of you. This is your chance to control the outcome. After I hung up, I sat in the silent penthouse and tried to imagine what $13.5 million would look like. A house somewhere quiet, maybe upstate, or Vermont. Somewhere I could disappear and rebuild a life that had nothing to do with Vanessa Marcus or Fortune 500 companies or betrayal. It sounded nice. It sounded like surrender. My phone rang again. Not Jennifer this time. Vanessa. I almost didn't answer, but something, curiosity, masochism, the muscle memory of 8 years, made me pick up. Did Jennifer call you? Her voice was different, smaller, the CEO mask completely gone, discompletely gone. End quote. Discompletely gone. Discompletely gone. She did. Are you going to take it? I don't know yet. Silence. Then, can we meet? Just the two of us. No lawyers. No cameras. Just us. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Please, David. There are things I need to say. Things that shouldn't be said through attorneys or in depositions. Just give me an hour. Against my better judgment, I said yes. We met at the Hamptons' house. Neutral territory, or as neutral as $1 million beach property could be. I drove out alone, arriving just before sunset. The house looked exactly as I remembered, all windows and weathered wood, perched on a bluff overlooking the Atlantic. Vanessa's Range Rover was already there. I found her on the deck, wrapped in a blanket, watching the waves. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Not the CEO who commanded boardrooms, but just a woman sitting alone at the edge of the ocean. Thanks for coming, she said without turning around. I sat in the chair beside her, close enough to talk, far enough to maintain distance. You said you had things to say. I did. I do. She pulled the blanket tighter. I've been thinking about what Judge Levinson said. About the $550,000. About how I called you a gold digger when you were earning more than most people ever will. You didn't call me that. Your lawyers did. You know in common tected apsody. You know in common. You know in common. You know in common tected epsody. I signed off on it. I let them characterize you that way because it was easier than admitting the truth. Which is, she looked at me then. Her eyes were red, no makeup to hide the evidence of crying. That I was the one who failed, not you. That I asked you to sacrifice your career and then resented you for doing it. That I fell in love with success and forgot what it felt like to be in love with a person. She paused. That I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too ambitious to know when I had enough. The waves crashed below us. The sun was setting, painting the sky in oranges and purples that no photograph could capture. Why Blake? I asked. Of all people, your lawyer's colleague, someone who could help you divorce me. Why him? Because he was safe. Because he understood my world in a way you never could. Because... She stopped. Started again. Because he didn't know me when I was nobody. He only knew the CEO, the success. He didn't have memories of me being scared or vulnerable or anything less than powerful. And that was appealing? It was easier. With you, I always felt like I was performing, trying to live up to the version of myself you fell in love with. The woman who laughed at paradigm shifts and ate dive bar food and admitted when she was scared. With Blake, I could just be the CEO. No pretense, no history. No failure to measure up to who I used to be. I absorbed that. The idea that I'd made her feel inadequate by loving who she was before success consumed her. I never wanted you to perform, I said quietly. I just wanted you to be present, to remember that there was more to life than quarterly earnings and board meetings. I know, and that's what made it worse. You never asked for anything except my time and attention, and those were the two things I couldn't give you. The sun touched the horizon. The sky went from purple to deep blue. The settlement offer, Vanessa said, $13.5 million. It's not enough. I know that. There's no amount of money that undoes what I did to you, to us, but it's what I can offer. Along with silence. Yes. So I take the money and pretend our marriage never happened. Pretend you never asked me to sacrifice my career. Pretend you never fell in love with someone else while telling me you were working late. I know how it sounds. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're buying your reputation, making sure I can't tell the truth about what happened. Making sure the narrative stays successful, CEO divorces unsuccessful husband instead of successful CEO has affair, commits corporate fraud, and tries to gaslight her husband into thinking he was worthless. She flinched. That's fair. Is it? Because I'm not sure fair is the right word anymore. None of this is fair, Vanessa. Not what you did. Not what I'm being offered to stay quiet. Not the fact that you'll walk away from this with your company and your reputation mostly intact, while I'll walk away with money and a gag order. What do you want, David? Really? If money isn't enough, what would be? End. When needed body, add-ends. When needed body, 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 and in 70%, when needed body, when needed body. I thought about that. What did I want? An apology? I had one. Recognition? Judge Levinson had given me that. Justice? The truth was already on the record, preserved in depositions and court transcripts. I want you to tell the truth, I said finally, publicly, not through lawyers or carefully worded statements. I want you to admit what you did, the affair, the corporate fraud, the gaslighting, all of it. That would destroy my career. So would the truth if it came out another way. You'd do that? Force me to choose between my reputation and your silence? You forced me to choose between my dignity and financial security. Seems only fair. You can Sipton. You can Sipton with her 2000. You can Sipton with your minute. You can Sipton with your minute and while. You can Sipton with your minute. You forced me to choose between my dignity. You can Sipton with your minute and... She was quiet for a long time. The first stars were appearing. The ocean had gone from blue to black. I can't, she said finally. I've worked too hard, sacrificed too much. The company depends on me. The shareholders, the employees, the board, they all depend on stability. If I admitted to corporate fraud, even for personal expenses, it would tank our stock, cost people their jobs, destroy everything I've built, everything we built. What? You said everything I've built, but you didn't build it alone, Vanessa. I was there, supporting you, believing in you, managing our life so you could focus on the company. It wasn't just your success. It was ours. You're right, it was, and I'm sorry I made you feel otherwise. Sorry isn't enough. What would be enough? I stood, walked to the edge of the deck. The ocean stretched endlessly before me, indifferent to human drama. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe nothing. Maybe there's no amount of apology or money or public admission that fixes this. Maybe all we can do is acknowledge what happened and try to move forward with as much dignity as possible. Does that mean you're taking the settlement? I don't know yet. Vanessa stood, came to stand beside me, not touching, but close. Close enough that I could smell her perfume. The same Chanel I'd bought her for 3 Christmases. For what it's worth, she said, I did love you. Do love you. In whatever broken way I'm still capable of. That was real, even if everything else became a lie. I know, end quote. How? Because I still love you too, which makes this so much worse. We stood there in silence. 2 people who'd once promised forever, now negotiating the terms of goodbye. If you don't take the settlement, Vanessa said, what will you do? Go back to court. Let Judge Levinson decide. Take whatever she determines is fair. That's a gamble. So is taking your money and hoping it fills the hole you left. She smiled, sadly. When did you become so philosophical? Around the time my wife served me divorce papers from 30,000 feet. We stood there until the sky went completely dark, until the house lights were the only illumination and the ocean was just sound without shape. I should go, Vanessa said finally. Vanessa, Vanessa, Vanessa. Yeah? She turned to leave, then stopped. David, for what it's worth, I hope you find someone who deserves you, who appreciates what I was too blind to see. What's that? That success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. She left. I heard her Range Rover start, heard the tires on gravel, heard the sound fade into the night. I stayed on the deck for another hour, watching the invisible ocean, thinking about choices and consequences and whether there was really a difference between justice and revenge. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Where are you?" "We need to discuss the settlement offer." "Hamptons," I typed back. Needed to think. "And? What are you thinking?" I looked out at the darkness, at the life I'd built with someone who'd forgotten to value it. "I'm thinking I need one more night to decide." "Take your time. But David, whatever you choose, make sure it's what you actually want, not what you think you should want." Good advice. Hard to follow. I drove back to the city through empty roads, got to the penthouse around midnight, poured myself a scotch. The Macallan was almost gone now. 8 years of marriage reduced to a quarter bottle. I stood at the window one more time, looked out at the city I'd shared with Vanessa, at the life we'd built and broken. $13.5 million. Or my day in court. My silence. Or my truth. I thought about what Blake had said, that Vanessa never stopped talking about me, that she loved success more than she loved me, but that she loved me still, in whatever compartmentalized way her ambition allowed. I thought about Judge Levinson's face when she said $550,000 wasn't gold digging. I thought about Tom Bradford, fired for telling the truth. I thought about 8 years of becoming smaller so someone else could become bigger. And I made my choice. I called Marcus. "I know what I'm doing," I said when he answered. "Yeah? Yeah? You sound sure." "I am." "Want to tell me what you decided?" "Tomorrow." When Jennifer calls for my answer, I want to tell them together. Dramatic. I like it. Get some sleep, David. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. I hung up, finished my scotch, went to bed in a penthouse that had never felt like home. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. Because whatever happened next, it would be on my terms. Finally, Jennifer Walsh called at exactly 9 a.m. "David, I need your answer on the settlement offer." I was standing at the window of the penthouse, watching the city wake up. Coffee in hand, suit already on, ready. "I'm declining," I said. Silence. Then, "I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?" "I'm declining the settlement. We'll see you in court at 2 p.m. "David, you're turning down $13.5 million. Do you understand what your dollars?" "I understand perfectly." "See you this afternoon, Jennifer." I hung up before she could argue. Marcus was waiting in the lobby when I came down. He took one look at my face and nodded. "You're sure about this?" "Completely." "Good. Because I've prepared something special for today. Judge Levinson asked for complete financial documentation. So I've prepared complete financial documentation." He handed me a folder. I opened it. Inside were spreadsheets, timelines, bank statements. Every contribution I'd made to our marriage over 8 years, documented and cross-referenced and annotated with the precision of a forensic accountant. But there was something else. Something I hadn't seen before. "What's this?" I asked, pointing to a section labeled Opportunity Cost Analysis. "That," Marcus said with a smile, "is what you would have earned if you'd stayed at Whitmore Financial and continued climbing the corporate ladder." I had an economist run the numbers. "Conservative estimates, accounting for promotions you likely would have received, bonuses, stock options, over 8 years. I scanned the numbers, felt my breath catch. $4.2 million. That's what you sacrificed when Vanessa asked you to be more flexible, what you gave up to support her career. And that's what we're going to show Judge Levinson this afternoon. The courtroom was packed when we arrived. Word had gotten out that this was the final hearing. The media was there in force. legal bloggers, a few people I recognized from M&H Technologies, colleagues of Vanessa's, probably there to show support or to watch the spectacle. Vanessa was already seated at the petitioner's table. She looked composed, professional, but when our eyes met, I saw something else underneath. Fear, maybe, or just exhaustion. Blake wasn't there. Of course not. He'd become radioactive, a liability neither side could afford to acknowledge. Judge Levinson entered at exactly 2 p.m. All rise. We stood. Saturday, the ritual of law playing out. Counsel, Judge Levinson began, settling her glasses on her nose. I've reviewed the financial documentation submitted by both parties. I've also reviewed the deposition transcripts, the expense reports provided by whistleblower disclosure, and approximately 47 news articles about this case that my clerk helpfully compiled for me. A ripple of laughter, quickly suppressed. Let me be clear about something, the judge continued. I don't make decisions based on public opinion or media coverage. I make them based on law, equity, and what I can verify through evidence. So let's talk about evidence. She pulled out a document, my financial summary. Mr. Chen, according to your submitted documentation, you earned approximately $553,000 in 2024, correct? Yes, Your Honor. And similar amounts in the preceding years? Yes, Your Honor. Averaging around $500,000 to $550,000 annually since 2020. Yet Mrs. Marcus's filing characterized you as financially dependent. Ms. Walsh, can you explain that characterization? Jennifer stood. Your Honor, Mr. Chen's income, while substantial, represented approximately 2% of Mrs. Marcus's total earnings. In that context, Ms. Walsh, I'm going to stop you right there. 2% of $30 million is still $600,000. That's not dependency. That's disparity. There's a difference. Your Honor, the prenuptial agreement clearly states, I've read the prenup. I've also read Mr. Webb's analysis of opportunity cost. Mr. Chen, is it true that you were on track for a vice president position at Whitmore Financial when you left? Yes, Your Honor. I'd been told I was being considered for promotion. And what would that position have paid? Marcus stood. Your Honor, we've submitted an expert analysis based on industry standards and Mr. Chen's trajectory. He would likely be earning approximately $800,000 to $1.2 million annually by now, plus equity and bonuses. So by leaving Whitmore at his wife's request, Mr. Chen sacrificed potentially $4 to $5 million in earnings over 8 years? That's our analysis, yes. Judge Levinson turned to Vanessa. Mrs. Marcus, did you ask your husband to leave his position at Whitmore? Vanessa stood slowly. I asked him to be more flexible, Your Honor. I didn't specifically ask him to leave. But you understood that being more flexible would impact his career advancement? Yes, I understood that. And you were comfortable with that trade-off? Him sacrificing his career trajectory so you could focus on yours? At the time, yes. I thought it was what was best for our marriage. And now, do you still think it was best for your marriage? Vanessa looked at me, then away. No, Your Honor, obviously not. Judge Levinson made a note. Let's talk about contributions. Mrs. Marcus, your filing states that Mr. Chen contributed minimally to household expenses. Do you stand by that characterization? Your Honor, I may have been imprecise in that characterization. Imprecise. According to the bank records, Mr. Chen contributed approximately $1.2 million to joint household expenses over 8 years. Does that sound minimal to you? In comparison to my contributions, Mrs. Marcus, we're not talking about comparison. We're talking about actual contribution. Did your husband contribute over $1 million to your household? Yes. Did he pay for vacations, dinners, and household expenses when you were building your company? Yes. Did he use his inheritance to help purchase your first home together? Yes. Then how exactly was his contribution minimal? Silence. Judge Levinson removed her glasses, rubbed the bridge of her nose. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. Mrs. Marcus, I'm going to be frank with you. I've been on this bench for 20 years. I've seen a lot of divorces. A lot of people trying to rewrite history to make themselves look better. But this case is particularly egregious. She picked up another document, the expense reports. You charged corporate dinners with Blake Foster to your company, hotels, travel, personal expenses disguised as business. Not only is that corporate fraud, it's insulting to this court. You're a CEO. You know better. Your Honor, those expenses were... I've read Mr. Foster's resignation statement. I've read the internal emails. I know exactly what those expenses were. And now you're standing in my courtroom calling your husband a gold digger when you've been committing actual financial impropriety? Vanessa's composure cracked. Completely. I made mistakes, Your Honor. I'm not denying that. But David is trying to punish me. Is he? Because from where I'm sitting, Mr. Chen is trying to get fair compensation for 8 years of partnership. That's not punishment. That's equity. Judge Levinson picked up her pen, started writing. The courtroom was silent. Even the court reporter seemed to be holding her breath. Here's what I'm going to do, Judge Levinson said. I'm going to set aside the prenuptial agreement. Gasps. Jennifer started to object. The judge held up her hand. The prenup was signed in good faith by both parties, but circumstances changed dramatically during the marriage. Mrs. Marcus asked Mr. Chen to sacrifice career opportunities. He did so, at significant financial cost. She then used that sacrifice to characterize him as dependent. That's not good faith. That's manipulation. She turned to her computer, typed something, continued. Mr. Chen will receive the following. The Hamptons property, free and clear. $3 million, his 40% of the penthouse equity, plus compensation for opportunity cost. An additional $2 million in liquid assets from the marital estate, and 50,000 shares of Marcus and Holt Technologies stock vested immediately. I did the math in my head. The Hamptons house was worth about $1 million, $5 million in cash, and M&H stock was trading at around $300 per share. That was another $15 million. $21 million. More than Vanessa's settlement offer. More than I'd ever imagined. Your Honor. Jennifer was on her feet. That's an unconscionable distribution. It's equitable. Mrs. Marcus will retain the penthouse, the majority of her stock options, her retirement accounts, and her company. Mr. Chen will have enough to rebuild the career he sacrificed and start over. That's not unconscionable. That's fair. Judge Levinson looked at Vanessa. Mrs. Marcus, do you understand the ruling? Vanessa was pale, shaking. How much? She whispered. How much is he getting? Approximately $21 million in total assets. What? Vanessa's voice cracked. That's almost what you were willing to pay to keep him quiet? Yes, except now he doesn't have to stay quiet. The truth is on public record. Your affair, your corporate fraud, your attempt to gaslight your husband into thinking he was worthless, all of it. And, quote, Vanessa turned to look at me. Her eyes were wide, shocked. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was the CEO, the powerful one, the one who controlled narratives. David, she said, just my name, like a question. I stood, looked at her across the courtroom, at the woman I'd loved, the woman who'd forgotten how to love me back. You wanted to know what I wanted, I said quietly. I wanted the truth on record. I wanted recognition that I mattered, that I contributed, that I wasn't just some gold digger living off your success. But 21 million. 21 million. is what Judge Levinson determined was fair. Not what I asked for. I would have been happy with just the acknowledgement. The money is just proof that she agrees with me. Judge Levinson struck her gavel. This divorce is granted. The assets will be distributed as outlined. Mrs. Marcus, you'll work with your financial team to transfer the specified assets within 60 days. Mr. Chen, you'll vacate the penthouse within the same time frame. Are we clear? Yes, Your Honor, Marcus said. Jennifer just nodded, defeated. Then we're adjourned. The gavel fell again. Final. Absolute. It was over. The courtroom erupted. Journalists rushing for the doors. Colleagues whispering. Somewhere, someone was probably already writing the headline. CEO ordered to pay estranged husband $21 million in divorce settlement. I sat there, unable to move, unable to process what had just happened. Marcus leaned over. Congratulations. You won. Did I? You got fair compensation. The truth is on record. Vanessa's reputation is damaged. Yeah, David, you won. But watching Vanessa being led out by her lawyers, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, I wasn't sure winning was the right word. I left through the side entrance, avoided the cameras, got into Marcus's car and sat in silence while he drove. Where to? He asked. Anywhere but the penthouse. We ended up at a bar in Brooklyn. Dark. Quiet. The kind of place where nobody cared if you were celebrating or drowning sorrows. To justice, Marcus said, raising his glass. To truth, I corrected. We drank. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. Texts, calls, emails. Everyone wanting a piece of the story. Except one person. Around 9 p.m., a text finally came from Vanessa. I deserved that. All of it. I'm sorry it took a judge to make me see what I'd done to you. I stared at it for a long time. Finally typed, I know. What will you do now? Live, build something new. Find out who I am when I'm not trying to be smaller. You were never small, David. I just made you feel that way. I know that now, too. I hope you find happiness. Real happiness. The kind I was too broken to give you. I hope you find it, too. No response after that. I turned off my phone, ordered another drink, sat with Marcus in comfortable silence. What are you going to do? He asked eventually. I don't know. Travel, maybe. Take some time. Figure out what I actually want, instead of what I think I should want. Sounds healthy. Sounds terrifying. Same thing, usually. We stayed until last call. Then Marcus drove me to Melissa's apartment in Park Slope. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug. You did it, she said. I did something. You stood up for yourself. You told the truth. You didn't let her erase you. She gave me $21 million. The judge gave you $21 million because you deserved it, because you earned it, because you were a partner, not a parasite. I slept on her couch that night, woke up to sunlight and the sound of Brooklyn coming alive outside the window. My phone had 47 missed calls, 12 voicemails, too many texts to count, and one email from Tom Bradford. David, saw the news. Congratulations, you did the right thing. Also, I wanted you to know, the SEC is investigating M&H for the expense report issues, and I just got a call from 3 other companies wanting to hire me. Turns out whistleblowers are hot commodities. Truth works out sometimes. Tea. I smiled, closed my laptop, made coffee in Melissa's tiny kitchen. Outside, the city moved forward. People going to work, to lives, to problems, and joys, and moments that would become their histories. I was one of them now, not David Chen, husband of Vanessa Marcus. Not the gold digger, or the victim, or the wronged spouse. Just David, with $21 million, a beach house, and the rest of my life to figure out what came next. The rain had stopped. The storm was over, and for the first time in years, the future felt like something I could actually see. 3 months later, the beach house looked different without Vanessa's furniture. I'd kept some pieces, sold others, brought in things that were actually mine: books, art I'd chosen myself, a piano I was teaching myself to play. The ocean was the same, indifferent, eternal, beautiful. I'd started consulting again, full-time, on my own terms. My client roster had doubled after the trial. Apparently being publicly vindicated by a judge was good for business. I'd also started writing. Nothing I planned to publish, just processing, getting it all down, turning 8 years of marriage into something that made sense on paper. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. David Chen. Mr. Chen, this is Rebecca Kim from Stanford Business School. I'm calling about your application to our executive MBA program. I'd applied on a whim, decided it was time to finish what I'd started, to invest in myself the way I'd once invested in Vanessa's dreams. Yes, I'm pleased to inform you that you've been accepted for the fall cohort. Congratulations. I stood at the window, watched the waves, thought about new beginnings and second chances, and the strange mathematics of loss and gain. Thank you, I said. I'll be there. After I hung up, I poured myself a scotch. Not the Macallan. I'd finished that bottle the night I moved out of the penthouse. This was something new, something I'd chosen myself. The sunset was starting. Orange and purple and gold. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Saw the M&H stock price today, down 12% since the trial. Your shares are now worth $12.8 million. Congrats on timing. I looked at the number, laughed. Even in divorce, Vanessa was making me money. Another text, this one from Melissa. Mom wants to know if you're coming to Thanksgiving. Also, she wants to know if you're seeing anyone. I told her to mind her business, but you know how she is. I typed back, tell her yes to Thanksgiving and no to the other thing, but I'm working on it. One more text, from an unknown number that I somehow knew before I opened it. I saw you're going to Stanford. Good for you. You were always smarter than you gave yourself credit for. V. I stared at it, thought about responding, about saying something cutting or kind or true. Instead, I just deleted it. Some conversations were over, some chapters were closed. This was mine now. My life, my choices, my future. I raised my glass to the sunset, to the ocean, to the long, difficult road that had led me here. Here's to truth, I said to the empty room. Here's to justice. Here's to figuring out what comes next. The glass was empty before the sun touched the horizon. And somewhere in Manhattan, in a penthouse worth $8 million, Vanessa Marcus was probably working late, building, achieving, succeeding, alone. I didn't pity her, didn't hate her, didn't love her anymore either. I just moved forward into the rest of my life. Finally, 1 year later, the article appeared in the New York Times business section on a Tuesday. Vanessa Marcus steps down as CEO of Marcus & Holt Technologies. After mounting pressure from the board and shareholders following corporate governance concerns, Vanessa Marcus announced her resignation as CEO of the company she helped build. Marcus will remain on the board in an advisory capacity. CFO Sarah Chen will serve as interim CEO. Marcus, 40, became the youngest female CEO of a Fortune 500 company in 2022, but faced significant controversy following her high-profile divorce in 2025. SEC investigations into corporate expense misuse resulted in a $2.5 million fine for M&H Technologies, though Marcus herself faced no criminal charges. In a statement, Marcus said. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have led this company, but it's time for new leadership. I'll be focusing on personal growth and spending time on projects that matter to me. Marcus's ex-husband, David Chen, declined to comment. I read the article on my phone while having breakfast in Palo Alto. I was halfway through my first semester at Stanford, top of my class, already had 3 job offers for after graduation. I closed the article, went back to my coffee and case study. Outside my window, California sunshine. Inside, peace. The storm was long over, and I had finally learned to dance in the rain.